All right, good evening, everyone. We'd like to go ahead and welcome you to the Fruita City Council meeting. The time is now 7 p.m. We're going to go ahead and call our meeting to order. Deb, would you please call roll?
Councillor Bremen.
Here.
Councillor Purser.
Here.
Councillor Williams.
Yes.
Councillor Cry.
Here.
Councillor Miller.
Present.
Councillor Hansi.
Here.
All right, we're going to move into our moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. Will you please stand with us? We'd like to take the opportunity to allow a moment of silence for all faiths and beliefs, the opportunity for a silent prayer. Thank you. If you'd please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we've got an agenda before us. Are there any changes to that agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda, Mr. Mayor.
All right, do we have a motion to adopt?
I move to adopt the agenda as presented. Second.
All right, we got a first and a second. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, would you please poll council?
Councillor Bremen.
Okay.
Councillor Purser.
Yes.
Councillor Williams.
Yes.
Councillor Cry.
Aye.
Councillor Miller.
Yes.
Councillor Hansi.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, with that, we're gonna move into our proclamations and presentations. We have one presentation tonight, and that's we've got the new principal for the Fruita Monument High School. I make sure I get his last name. Newt, is it Klusmeyer? Klusmeyer. All right. So welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I joke that my name is just all around bad, Newt Klusmeyer. It's a mouthful no matter how you shake it. So thank you for coming. Really, I just wanted to show up to introduce myself. I know most of you from working with your kids at Fruita Monument High School, and I recognize some last names because I think you have kids at Fruita Monument High School currently. Yeah. So this is going to be my 6th year as a member of the Fruita community. My wife and I came here 5 years ago when I was lucky enough to become an AP at Fruita Monument High School. And we fell in love with Fruita. We're both from Colorado. We never thought we would end up in Mesa County, and we feel lucky to have done so. Fruita is just such a gem. And the reason why we believe is because there's such a strong sense of community here. And I've always believed that schools should be the hub of a strong community. And in the past, we've done such a great job of working together, to push forward one another's goals. So that's really why I'm here. I feel like I should show up, I always believe in being solution oriented. I don't really have any asks, just wanted to introduce myself and say, Fruita Monument is here to support you guys with whatever you need. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here. So I do wonder if you have any questions for me though, and I'm happy to answer what I can. And, if I know the answer.
Will you be joining the kick line at every football game?
So yeah, you agree to do something once and then you learn quickly that it becomes an expectation. Yeah. I decided to join our Palms kick line. I think we had just scored 47. So I did learn I can do 47 cans. Yeah. My hamstrings paid for it the next day, but yeah. So probably, yeah, we'll see. Yeah. But
That's on record, right? We're
James is going to hold me to it. Yeah.
Look good out there, Newt.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm excited for you, your leadership. And I know that
Thank you.
the kids just love you, and you're in the trenches with them, and they appreciate it, and so do we.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. It's really easy to lead a school with such great kids. I mean, and that's what Fruita Monument is. It's a great school. So yeah. Any other questions or anything? No?
I've got a hard one.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
you go first.
So there's things that are going across the nation.
Okay.
That are hitting Colorado and things that are hitting our school district. How are you combating to keep transparency within the schools between parents, students, and teachers? Because there's different things, like we've seen book issues in our community.
Yeah.
We've seen questionable surveys in our community. How are you going to keep that transparency open and that we are all kept in the loop?
Yeah. You hit on it with that keyword, transparency. My number one goal as principal this year is clear and consistent communication. And I think that that can actually solve a lot of these differences when we communicate with one another. I tend to welcome parents who have hard questions about what we're doing in our schools, because oftentimes we can enlighten them, right? And bring them into the conversation. The parental perspective is a very important one. But yeah, it's really just being intentional in being transparent in our communication.
Thank you.
You bet. Yeah. Any other questions?
I wanted to know what maybe you might like to see from us that we can do for you.
I've got a long list of facility needs that. Yeah, just kidding. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, right. Yeah. Nothing really comes to mind. I just believe in the value of relationships more than anything. And when that time comes, if there's an opportunity for us to work together on something, I would rather you guys know my name, know my face, than me cold calling you and saying, hey, what if we did this? So I really don't have anything right now. Yeah. Mhm.
We've talked just a little bit last year about each of us like taking a day of the week to students in the morning. So
Okay.
we may be reaching out.
I give a fist bump to kids as they come in. It's my favorite part of my day. So yeah, you're welcome to stand with me. It's pretty great. So yeah. Okay.
Questions? Well, thank you, dude.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Appreciate
Nice
your
to
time.
meet you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Some of us that don't have.
No, two of us, you mean? No,
Yeah.
three of us. So, all right, with that, we're going to move into our public participation. So this section is set aside for the city council to listen to comments by the public regarding items that do not otherwise appear on the agenda. Generally, the city council will not discuss the issue and will not take an official action. So if there's anybody in the audience that'd like to speak on something that's not on our agenda, now is your opportunity. That one is a discussion between, it's a policy discussion. It's not a discussion with the public. So if you want to say something about that, now would be your opportunity to do that. So what we do is ask you to state your name and address for the record, and then limit your comment to 3 minutes.
Yes, hello again. My name is Kathleen Morrison, 909 Prince Court, Fruita. I'm here because I was here at your meeting on the 29th when thankfully you chose not to accept the offer that was before you. And I think myself, like many members of the audience, thought that they, because I'm a friend with a small f, not a big F, a friend. And I believe that the audience thought that your intention as a council was to give them time to come up with a plan to work with the city to protect the public access to the lake. But when the president of the Friends emailed the city manager and asked for a meeting so that they could discuss what their plan was. They wanted to have a picnic, a cleanup, so that the Friends could all meet each other, etc., and clean it up and get rid of the fire circles so that people didn't think they could have fires, which they can't, and just basically clean it up and have a plan, because they have many volunteers that are ready to clean it and make sure that no hooligans show up, et cetera, et cetera. They have a plan. The email from Mr. Bennett was basically, we have no intention of working with you people. Our plan is to sell this, and that's all there is. So don't bother. Don't bother. And I'm just really concerned about that, because I think we need clarification, because I thought we were really clear on what the council wanted. And yet these people are left out in the cold. So I know you can't speak, but please, if you could clarify that. I don't understand. We thought that you were giving us a chance. I say us, small f. Those folks, I thought you were giving them a chance, but it but it does not seem like the staff is giving them a chance. So if you could, as we go forward in the meeting, when you can, if you could just clarify that to help us understand what the council's position is and whether or not the Friends have an opportunity to go forward with their plan and work with the city, which they do. They have volunteers lined up. They're going to keep it clean. They're going to make sure there's no hooligans. They're going to do everything they can while they look for a buyer. But I think they thought they had more time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anybody else in the audience that'd like to speak? All right. State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Vera Mulder, 983 East Paber Avenue, Fruita, Colorado. Okay. I came because of Enoch Lake. I have a really cool way of mispronouncing things. And I was really pleased to meet the new principal. And he used a word that I thought was really good: transparency. Then I was handed this thing about Mike Bennett. Your email refers to our current agreement. The city only allows work to be performed on the behalf of the city with a written contract and certain levels of insurance in place. I can understand that. Since the city and the Friends of Enoch Lake do not have a written agreement, there is no permission given. This is a liability for the issue for the city. The city is currently focused on the process for no longer being owner of the property. So the city has already made up its mind. It's not going to give Jim Cook and that committee that was formed the chance to give some alternative ideas to preserving that lake and that water for the future, or to preserving that lake and the water for people that like to go up there and actually camp, clean up after themselves and go home. We had occasion, myself and a couple of other people, to go up there several times, and it was a joy to see it. It was a place for people can go and get in touch with Mother Nature instead of down here where you have the valley. And then the city is complaining they need the revenue. Well, this is probably only a small thing. I live on Paber, and I'll bet that if the police gave tickets for all the speeders that go up and down that street, all the speeders that go up and down Pine Street, and I do mean 40, 50, 60 miles an hour. I've clocked them. There's a little red car and there's a little blue car. And today there was a little turquoise car, zoom. And there are 1, 2, 3 houses across from us with little kids. Preschool, first grade, second grade, third grade. On the other side, more kids. And there's some moving in. And then there's some old people like me. We have to toddle across the street. We might get run over, but maybe that's how you get rid of our voices, huh? Anyway, and then going up the overpass, it says 35 miles an hour going up. And then when you're in the overpass, it says 17. Well, I'm guilty. I break it at about 20, 22. But there's for example, there's a red pickup that goes through there, zoom, 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 with 2 flags sticking up on the back. And I don't know what the guy's got in his lap, but he's going. But that's just one example, and there are many. So.
What's your thought, Vera? Because your time's up. So what was your final thought?
My final thought is that it's a sin for you guys to even think about giving up Enoch Lake without giving Jim Cook and that committee a chance to solve the problem, or to give solutions, and then you can decide. So and I don't want to be ashamed of Fruita because I love Fruita, but this is going to make me feel really badly. Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience that'd like to speak? If you'd step up and state your name and address for the record, please.
Teresa Wilcox, 651 East Carolina Avenue in Fruita. So what I wanted to say sort of ties in to what she was just mentioning, and I had kind of brought it up last time I was here too, but I'll just stick with that issue, which is the speeding. I live on East Carolina. So I walk my dog through there all the time. It's kind of been brought up, well, and Maple, I think that's that other street there that goes north-south. They speed on that street really bad too. And it was kind of mentioned to me, oh, it's probably high school kids. That could certainly be some of it. It is not all of it by any stretch of the imagination. Some are people that live right there on our street. And there are several neighbors there that have small children. People have pets, cats. I know some people don't care about cats. Oh, run over a cat, no big deal. But those cats belong to somebody and they care about them. I know we have a leash law in Fruita and I don't let my dog just run wild, but she managed to slip out the door the other day and she was down the street and scared me to death because I was going, what happens if somebody's coming through here? And it is not an exaggeration to say I've seen people going through there at 70 miles an hour. That's not an exaggeration. Sometimes the motorcycles are really bad, but it's routine to see people going 40, 50, and 60. And it's, even just out walking on the sidewalk, it's a little nerve-wracking because what if something does dart out in front of them and they jerk the wheel and they lose control? They take me out too, and I'm on the sidewalk. So it's just a very, very concerning issue. And it's not just a time or two a day. I mean, it is kind of all the time throughout the day and evening as well. I take my dog out at lunch sometimes for a walk. It can be then, it can be along in the evenings, and certainly it could be school kids. But if you start setting an officer down there, and I've seen them kind of drive through here lately, but that's really not going to do anything. You need somebody there. They're kind of pulled down in one. I know they can do this. I've seen them pulled down in one of those other streets, just parked there, just waiting, and they'll catch them. And if you start hitting people where it hurts, which is the pocketbook, then it's going to get a lot of that stopped. And so, and when I was here last time, I spoke with a couple of you and you said, well, it's kind of a like citywide problem. Well, we need to get a handle on that. Isn't that kind of like that broken window philosophy? Well, you start letting them break windows and then next thing it's something bigger and bigger and bigger. And I just see a real kind of disregard for the law and I can do whatever I want attitude with all of this. So I just wanted to bring those concerns. I don't have any solutions other than put in four-way stop signs or speed bumps, which I was told aren't easy to do. So I don't know. My
Time's up, Teresa. So thank you. Your time's up.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. Well, thank you. Thank you
you.
for bringing that up. All right. Is there anybody else in the audience that'd like to speak on something that's not on the agenda? Now's your opportunity. Once we close public comment, you won't have another opportunity. So is there anybody else that'd like to speak? All right. Hearing none, we're going to close public participation and we're going to move into our consent agenda. So this is where these are all items or conditions or requirements have been agreed to or met prior to the time they come before council for final action. They'll all be approved by a single motion. So we're going to open that up to public comment. So if is there anybody that'd like to speak on something that's on the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, I'll bring you back to council. Does anybody have any questions or comments, or do we have a motion to approve?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, we've got a first and a second. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, Deb, would you please poll council?
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor Cry.
Aye.
Counselor Miller.
Yes.
Counselor Hansi.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, with that, we're going to move into our public hearings. We've got one legislative hearing tonight. That's Resolution 2023-27. It's amending the 2023 budget with supplemental appropriations. And we've got our Assistant City Manager Shannon Vossen here to present.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, for the opportunity to present this.
Oh,
Oh, we may have lost connection for a second.
all right, just check. So we
Yeah, let me
can see what's going on.
Let me share again. We do need to appropriate $130,000 for 2 police interceptors that are due for replacement next year. We have been told by Ford, and this was actually before the strike, that we have a very limited window to order 2 police interceptors in October. They won't be delivered until November 2025. They're holding off on all government builds throughout 2024. So in order to even have the opportunity to buy 2 police interceptors, we need to place the order in October, and we have to have the funds to actually appropriate it to place that order. So $130,000 for that. There are 4 total to be replaced over the next 2 years, but we're actually going to cycle out our 2 investigator vehicles and put those into the regular fleet, and they will transition to either a small SUV or a sedan. In the capital or in the sewer fund, we have $350,000 that will be appropriated. $50,000 is to purchase a vertical drum mixer at the wastewater reclamation facility. If you remember, council earlier this year approved $250,000 to replace 2 vertical drum mixers in the southern basin. One of them was kind of heaping, and we were going to send it back to the manufacturer to be refurbished and sent back as a extra to have in the future. Unfortunately, that one cannot be fixed, so this appropriates an additional $50,000 to purchase one and kind of have that as a replacement to be used in the future, along with the other one that we pulled out of the aeration basin. And then finally, we also received a $300,000 grant or a supplemental grant from the Colorado Department of Local Affairs for our H2S mitigation project. This does not increase the budget for it, but will rather offset our costs for this project. Always happy to answer any questions if you have any. I will defer the rest of my time to public comment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council.
Shannon. Thank you. All right, with that, we're going to open this item up for public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to speak on this item? All right, hearing none, we'll close public comment and bring it back to council. Does anybody have any questions related to this?
I do on the police vehicles.
Of course.
Even though we won't take delivery until 25, we have to pay them.
Well, in order for us to place the order, we have to have the money appropriated because we can't.
But it still stays in our account.
It does, yeah. That was
in the cost.
I think they gave us a 5% escalation per year. So this is actually more than we have budgeted currently. So this year in the budget, we have $55,000 for replacement. So add an extra 10% to receive it in 2025. That's how I got the 130, 65 each. And that is fully outfitted. We hope it'll come in close, but when the council adopts the 2025 budget, we can always increase those funds if needed.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get police interceptors. I think we've had the opportunity to maybe get 2 this year, but they were bought by, I think, Boulder and Fort Collins. It's the only thing we've even had like eyes on as far as I'm aware. And I think Kimberly can, if any questions, she can defer as Public Works oversees fleet.
Other questions?
All right, anybody else have any questions on this item? All right, then do we have a motion?
I move we adopt resolution 2023-27, amending the 2023 budget to appropriate funds in the general fund and the sewer fund for equipment, and capital projects.
Second.
All right, we've got a first and a second. Any other questions or comments on this item? All right, hearing none, Deb, would you please poll council?
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor Cry,
Aye.
Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
Counselor Bremen,
Yes.
Counselor Purser.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, with that, we're gonna move into our administrative agenda, and our first item, our only item actually on the administrative agenda is a presentation and consideration of an MOU between the city of Fruita and the Grand Junction Economic Partnership. So Mike's gonna take over, and then we've got Curtis here to fill us in.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of council. We have Curtis Engelhardt, the Executive Director for the Grand Junction Economic Partnership, and I are both going to go through this presentation. Curtis is going to do the bulk of it through a PowerPoint that he's put together. The MOU before you tonight, the Memorandum of Understanding, is basically to memorialize the relationship between the city and GJEP. It's been a relationship that's gone for many years now, but we wanted to. One of the goals that the City Council had this year was to further to define what those roles were. Curtis and I have worked together on that. That was one of our goals we had come up with last year, going into this year, so that we can manage expectations clearly and effectively of what when economic development opportunities are being worked on in the city of Fruita, what the city's role is and how GJEP supports the city in those economic development efforts. So I'll turn the time over to Curtis to go through the slides, and I'll end the presentation.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, City Council. Really excited to be here tonight. I came and presented to you all in January, and one of the action items I felt from that was to really work with Mike and really strengthen the partnership between the city of Fruita and GJEP. And I felt like that's what you'll see tonight. I'll start with just a quick refresher on some of the vision and mission of GJEP, as well as some of the stats I walked you through last time. But then again, want to spend the bulk of the time on the MOU language with you all. So that first slide there, just as a reminder, the vision and mission of GJEP. So we continue to work to diversify the economy for all of Mesa County. And we really try to focus on what we call primary jobs. Primary jobs, anything that pays over the median annual earnings in Mesa County, which right now is a little over $50,000 annually. Any incentives that we work through are all performance-based, and they are tied to those primary jobs. Next slide, please. So just as a refresher, 2022 numbers. So we pulled together our annual report first quarter of the first part of the year. So we'll do that first quarter of 24 for 2023 numbers. But looking here, we had 7 wins, which are defined as a relocation or expansion of the area. 9 local assists, which we helped in some form or fashion, which really goes towards the retention piece of our mission at GJEP. 83 new jobs, primary jobs created with the potential of 333, and an economic impact of a little over $15 million. And for our investors, we can proudly say that for every $1 invested in GJEP, we generated $20 in economic impact. And then taking a step further back, looking at 2016 to 2022 numbers, 230 total jobs created with 761 potential jobs. We say potential jobs because as businesses are expanding or relocating, they're on a hiring schedule. So they're not hiring everybody all at once. It's over some time. We also focus on the Rural Jumpstart program, which we're very proud of as a state leader in Mesa County. We've had 27 Rural Jumpstart companies approved, some of those right here in Fruita. And we get asked often, out of the companies you've helped either relocate or expand to the area, how many are still operating today? And that percentage is 83%. So a pretty good retention rate. And then that cumulative economic impact of a little over $73 million. And I'm excited to announce too, we did receive a national award for our efforts this year. So this came from the Business Facilities 2023 Top Economic Development Organization Award. We won for mid-sized economic development organization, which is for a population between 100,000 and 500,000. And really it was for our Rural Jumpstart efforts. It's what we were recognized for. Out of all of the Rural Jumpstart incentive dollars that have gone out for the state of Colorado, 66% of those are right here in Mesa County. So we're really proud about that. And then this is where we've really worked with Fruita in the past. And this is where I really feel like there's a lot of room for improvement, and where we think the MOU will really solidify that. But we have worked closely together, whether it's through events, trade shows, and then current committees and boards. So We've participated in 8 different events together, attended 10 different trade shows together, and trade shows is where we generate a lot of our leads, which turn into prospects, which eventually hopefully will turn into wins. And then we also have City of Fruita represented on the GJEP board. We were a part of the comprehensive plan committee, and then we also have staff that sit on the Fruita Chamber Workforce Committee as well. As far as our business focus, we've had 3 wins here, 63 total jobs, and that number is probably higher than that. Again, we do that on an annual basis. Capital investment of a little under $580,000. We had some good savings to Fruita businesses through tax credits and grant dollars. We also do a lot of site visits for prospects. So a site visit is they come in to the area and we show them around, whether that's commercial properties, walk them through different incentive packages, meet with different community members. We've done that 15 different times here with Fruita. And then also we showcase different commercial properties for what makes sense for the prospects. And we've done over 80 of those in our proposals that include City of Fruita property. Currently, this is our prospect pipeline. And so everything, all of our prospects we define as level 1, 2s, or 3s. So a level 1 is we've had that initial conversation with them and talked to them about their needs, what their business is, and how Mesa County can help. Level 2 is they've come in for that site visit, and we've really worked through an incentive package with them. Our incentives really are with the State Office of Economic Development and International Trade, but we try and create a customized package that's going to make sense for them. And then a level 3 is they are actually set to be on the agenda for the Economic Development Commission, which is a governor-appointed state board who approves all state incentives. And this is really unique because we are on pace to blow our past results out of the water. So from a prospect perspective, and also you see local assist is at 18. So again, we helped in some form or fashion. We're coming towards closer to the end of the year, but that's the most assists we've ever done, which again, really showcases the retention piece of what we're trying to do as well. And I show you this because we want to make sure some of these prospects turn into wins for the City of Fruita. And I think that's what that MOU will hopefully allow us to do going forward. So I show you those stats and tell you a little bit about GJEP 1 to level set, and 2 as we walk through this MOU to really showcase the track record of GJEP and the commitment we have to Mesa County when it comes to economic development. And so I just want to say that, preface that before we walk through this MOU. So after the January City Council meeting, when I came here, Mike and I really sat down and started having a lot of detailed conversations on how we could really strengthen and grow our partnership for the City of Fruita. As a City of Fruita resident, I definitely want to see Fruita succeed, which you are, but I also want to be a part of that as well. And so we crafted a memorandum of understanding, and GJEP committed to the following. So what we would like to do is we would be responsible for hiring and training staff on business recruitment and expansion strategies. So we currently have a staff of 5, including myself. We have a business development manager and a deputy director who take the lead on all business expansion and recruitment efforts. There is a typo that was highlighted in there. So just observing that it's not city staff, it would be our staff. We will also be the subject matter experts on all state and local incentive programs, which really is a big task. So a lot of those incentives change often, whether it's different tax codes or new initiatives that come out from the state. And so we make sure that we stay up to date on all those and stay current on all those incentive programs, and make sure we have the proper relationships in place with the Office of Economic Development, International Trade. So when prospects are reaching out to OEDIT, they are thinking of Mesa County just as much as some of those bigger metro areas as well. Some of those incentive programs include the Rural Jumpstart Program, Job Growth Incentive Tax Credit, the Career Development Program, Skills Advanced Colorado, and the Enterprise and Opportunity Zones. We will also present to City of Fruita Council and update you all on progress on a biannual basis and make sure you all are up to speed on what we're doing. And then we will also meet with city manager, his staff and other organizations within the city of Fruita who Mike feels would be appropriate to attend to really develop an economic development group to where we are continuing to update each other, seeing whether it's new commercial properties, whether it's new programs, initiatives, whatever it may be. And then we can also relay that information back more accurately to our prospects and make sure we're finding a good fit for the city of Fruita. I'm so excited about that piece of it. And then we will also coordinate all site visits with prospective businesses and developers. And we will include City of Fruita staff and properties located within the city. We will showcase commercial properties and buildings located in the city on a consistent basis. And lastly, we will make sure we have an open line of communication with the city manager. So I will say fully transparent here, what GJEP would request of the city of Fruita financially going through your 2024 budget process would be $20,000. However, if there's a tiered approach you would like to look at and kind of gear up to that $20,000, I would absolutely be open to that as well and make sure that we're passing muster here before you're fully financially investing into us. But with that, I will turn it over to Mike to talk a little bit through the City of Fruita commitments within the MOU.
All right, thank you, Curtis. On the screen, I know it's small print here, but this is an excerpt from the MOU that's in the packet. And this is what City of Fruita commits to, and that's to lead the economic City of Fruita, we take the lead on economic development efforts in the city, and we collaborate with GJEP regarding the services and areas of expertise that Curtis just went through. And just to highlight a few of those, this occurs fairly regularly where we, I guess what Curtis just went through, there are prospects that come through the state or directly through GJEP that GJEP sets up those site visits, and they do a great job with this. They set up almost an individualized website for each prospect where we can all communicate and they can have all the access to all the information that prospective business is looking for. They coordinate with myself and with our planning and development department to get whatever local information is needed to, for that business is seeking, and additional information that we feel would be helpful for them to see. But they'll coordinate those visits, and we've done many of those. Economic development it's a long game in a lot of ways. There's a lot of prospects that could be looking at multitudes of areas. And then there's some that are very specific to Fruita only or to the Grand Valley only. And we try to be as helpful and walk them through the process as we can. The other part that I like to highlight that GJEP is an expert at, that we do not have the expertise in-house, and nor do we need it because we partner with GJEP, is all the programs that Curtis talked about earlier. So the second bullet there with Rural Jumpstart, Job Growth Incentive Tax Credit, Career Development, Skills Advanced Colorado, Enterprise and Opportunity Zones. When businesses are either going through that, or even if they weren't aware, and then when we make them aware and they're interested in utilizing any of those programs, GJEP does a phenomenal job of walking them through. And that's with existing businesses in Fruita and prospective businesses. So we've seen a lot of success with existing businesses that are doing expansions, or they would like to increase the training of their staff, or they're adding a new line of product. And GJEP, it's an extremely great partnership in that respect, because we line them up with GJEP, and then they are able to work directly with the business and walk them through those processes that take quite a bit of time just to even. That process can take quite some time, and GJEP does a great job with that. So those are the ways that they really assist us in the economic development process. We have a lot of economic development successes where people come directly to the city, and in some of those, sometimes it's a pretty clear-cut process that we're able to work through just with the planning and development department. We keep GJEP updated, and we may not need some of the assistance for some of them, but they're always willing and able to help with that. We take the lead in working with the prospective businesses or expansion or startup businesses in the city with working through our code process and the building department process. And we do a great job of that. The economic development group, we used to do this on a regular basis years ago. And then it became a little more informal and via virtual during the COVID years. And we're getting that back going where Curtis, myself, usually Dan Karras in the city, but sometimes various departments, depending on the project, attend those. It's kind of a fluid group because it depends on what the matter is that we're discussing. The chamber director, the business incubator center director, the workforce center director. We bring groups like that in to discuss very specific projects that we're working on, and sometimes just keep each other up to speed on what's happening, because sometimes that's where we find out some additional assistance that could be added to any of those collaborations. And then, of course, we do pay GJEP as a city for their services. Currently, that's $10,000 a year, and then Curtis has just given you his request. That is not part of the MOU. Just basically refers that to the outside agency process and the annual budget process. So that's for one, so you don't have to update the MOU every year moving forward, and because that's just how councils appropriate the funds for all outside agencies. So you receive a request, and then typically at the October workshop every year during the budget process, you have a discussion about all the requests that you have and the current groups that we work with, and if there's any new requests, and give staff direction on what to put in the budget. And then the other two bullets there are pretty straightforward. We've already covered them about board participation and lines of communication. With that, we're happy to take any questions. Our request is for the city council to, by motion and a vote, direct me as the city manager to sign the memorandum of understanding with one correction in it, and that is to take the word city out of the first bullet. That's why we highlighted it in the presentation, just to point that out, because that would be the one change in the MOU document that we would want in there.
All right. Well, thanks, Mike, and thanks, Curtis. All right. Who wants to open up with a question? Matthew.
I always have.
Go ahead, Matthew.
So, is there, and I'm just going to apologize before I ask the question. Is there any chance of changing the name? Sign this to the Grand Valley Economic Partnership?
It's a great question. And I think it's one that would be a board discussion, something that I
can talk about it tomorrow.
We got a board meeting tomorrow. No, I do appreciate the question. I know that's been a bit of a hot topic, and happy to at least have the conversation with the board. And but again, that would have to be a board decision.
Okay.
But I appreciate the question.
Do you really? And then the other question is, so with Rural Jumpstart, which has been one of the main programs that GJEP has used, my understanding is we're eligible for it because there's 5 factors that go into it in terms of being a depressed area. My understanding is also that we're coming out of that. So what do you see as the tools that would be available to GJEP, the Grand Valley, as our economy continues to improve?
So Rural Jumpstart, there's a few different factors to it. The base of it is because we're in a rural area. So, and then you get different cash incentives based on being distressed. And so right now, in Mesa County, there's two levels of distressed. We're in more of the mild level, if you will. And so it's a $20,000 cash incentive where other more distressed counties are at $40,000. And so regardless if we're distressed or not, rural jumpstart's still available. And it does sunset in 2024. And so we will be going back to the Colorado State Legislature to try and get that extended again. So, but again, it's a great program for us. And whether we're distressed or not, we think that will continue on.
And I agree wholeheartedly. It's a great program.
Yeah.
So, good. I'm glad we're still eligible, and then, yeah, that we have to fight to keep it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's all I've got.
All right. Anybody else? Aaron?
Yeah, thank you for coming out. I appreciate it. So you talked about the community as a whole, and then so focusing more on Fruita. Of those success stories that we've seen in the city of Fruita area, how many potential jobs are there from those current wins? You kind of talked about how there's like 300 potential or something like that in the valley. How many jobs have we seen in the last few years come from the programs, and then what are the upsides?
Yeah, so good question. So what we do with that too is we look at we say those potential jobs, right? So we reach out to everybody we've worked with in the past and include those in those potential jobs. And so I believe for last year, what we found for Fruita was 13 jobs were directly in the city of Fruita, and a lot of that came through FHE.
Hey, Curtis, would you pull up that screen, the Fruita screen? If you had, it was probably, I don't know. Probably there we go. That one.
One more back.
No, I think that was the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just curious.
So those 13 new jobs are for us with 53 ups.
Well, I think there's two different numbers within there. So when we're looking at 83 new jobs, those were jobs that were directly in 2023. The 333 potential include those 13 from the city of Fruita. So the 13 there, that may be, I'll have to go back and look at the data, but that may be from the potential jobs that were in the 333 number, not the 83 number.
I can imagine the various sites that you bring people to come look at. What challenges do you see Fruita having versus Junction? Like, I know I was at an event earlier this year, I believe it was, and like Course Tech, they chose to expand in their own facility because they had space and things like that. But what do we have here that we can that we need to look at to help be even more successful, even more attractive?
Absolutely. I think it's a great question. I would say the thing we run into with the city of Fruita the most is lack of properties to look at. So whether it's commercial properties, land, I think you do a pretty good job of. We showcase land quite a bit. We've showcased the Fruita Business Park a number of times, but it hasn't quite worked out for whatever reason. But that's where we're kind of inventory we run into mostly. Workforce hasn't been, obviously there's a national labor shortage, but Mesa County as a whole has a very skilled workforce and robust workforce. And when we're working with prospects, they're not looking at city of Fruita workforce versus city of Grand Junction workforce. Everybody can commute within that. And so it's more the county as a whole. So workforce is good from that perspective. I think the only other thing that I would say we probably could do a little bit better job of as a whole is local incentives. It's tough to compete with some of these other areas because we do not really have the funds for local incentives from a cash perspective. And again, we do have a small pot. Again, I just want to be clear, we don't just dole out cash incentives. They are all performance based.
So does Junction or other communities in the valley have cash incentives and we just don't?
Yeah, City of Grand Junction does provide GJEP with a small amount of cash incentives on an annual basis. But if you look at, you look at like Colorado Springs area, and I know that's apples to oranges, what we're comparing there, but they have a $4 million incentive fund that they're able to pull from. And obviously we're not asking for $4 million for incentives, but it just shows, because we are the same prospects that the state's shipping to Colorado Springs, they're shipping to us. And so it is a very competitive.
And so these incentives would be with outside of the $10,000, $20,000 request. That'd be in
Correct.
addition to.
Correct.
Okay. Do I have one more question? Is there any benefit of additional community training or understanding more of what's out there that you guys do for our community just to help out indirectly?
Absolutely. So we actually have sat down with the Fruita Chamber as they hired a workforce. I'm probably getting the job title wrong, but they hired a full-time workforce coordinator position. And I know part of that job title is going out and meeting with local businesses. And I think one of the things that people think GJEP only does is bring businesses in, but we also help local businesses expand. And so we are meeting with the Fruita Chamber to allow them to understand some of those incentive programs and when to pull us in, and how some of those incentive programs work. So absolutely, it's a team sport, economic development.
Thank you.
Yes, that's all my question.
So when you say that they're looking for that properties is one of our challenges, are they looking for existing structures then? They don't want to build.
Yeah, right now we're seeing a lot more existing structures. Cost to build is still really high. So I would say probably 80%, 85% are looking for existing structures, and a lot of them are looking to lease too. And so it kind of starts dwindling your options down of what you can provide for them.
We've seen quite a few over the years, quite a few prospects that are very interested in Fruita, interested in the land that's available, but they're not in a position to build a new building. And so they're looking to lease to get started in the Grand Valley. So they end up leasing an existing building in Grand Junction, just because the cost to build a new building and the time frame and all of that is much too high typically for the state or the stage they're in. Some of those still keep their interest, and we've had some that have come into Fruita later, but that tends to be so. Yeah, properties is not land. We have lots of great developable, ready to build land. We just but we don't have a lot of large vacant facilities.
Small ones either.
Sure. Yep.
And then just one more. So I noticed, I think it was on either the previous slide or the one right after, that we used to participate in trade shows a lot. Is that something that will come back, or is that done now that we had the pandemic and
They are coming back? So the reason why there was the trade shows just kind of completely ceased there during the pandemic. And then as they were trying to kickstart again, they weren't really worth attending. They're just, very low vendors, not quite ready, the people you want to try and get in front of, but they are starting to come back. We've attended 9 trade shows this year, and some have been really good, and some have been, we may not go back to that. So we are, as we continue to navigate which ones we should be going to and not, absolutely, there would be an invite there.
Very cool. That's all I've got.
Thanks, Amy. That was my question. So, because what events, I know you do some in-state and some out-of-state. So what type of events do you guys go to? I know we've done outdoor recreation shows and some of those in the past, but are you focused on, I know in the past we've always said, hey, we want outdoor recreation type businesses for Fruita, or those that like fit with the community. So are there some of those that you're specifically looking at, those type of shows that would help maybe attract the businesses that Fruita would like?
Yes, we've expanded our scope a little bit outside of outdoor rec. We still go to a lot of outdoor rec. We did the outdoor retailer show, winter show in January. We did the big gear show in Denver. And then we did, I'm blanking on the other names. We've done about 3 out of the 9 have been outdoor rec focused. We've also done an aerospace show. And that one was actually in Australia, where we through our partnership with OEDA, we're able to go and attend as part of the state delegation. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go. I had a conflicting, anyways, I'm not bitter about it at all. So we're getting ready. We applied for a grant to go to another trade show, which would be on clean energy. So we're really trying to expand what we're able to do there. So, but aerospace we've been to about 2 or 3 aerospace events as well. That seems to be the one that's coming back the quickest.
Then my other question would be, I know the whole valley is getting more fiber and faster internet speed connections. Is that a good positive, or are we kind of on neutral ground with the rest of the country with, attracting businesses?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good positive. It feels like fiber is expected when you're dealing with some of these prospects, almost like it used to be a question on, the RFP that they'd want you to answer. Now it rarely pops up on it because they believe it's already there. But it is good to see that fiber is in here, and a lot of shovel ready properties. I think we can showcase that quite a bit.
Okay. And my last question is, I know you talked a little bit about a grant to go to a show. Are there other grants that the city can work on, and we may know, Mike may know, that would help with some of this economic development that either we could lead or you could lead on that may be beneficial? Especially looking at Amy's question about, we don't have any existing buildings. I know those are like big projects, but are there some things out there in the grant world that with economic development that could help us in Fruita?
Yeah, there isn't a ton from a government standpoint. There is a bunch of grants for businesses, and that's how OEDA likes to do those. They did do an action grant, they called it this year, which was up to a $40,000 grant to help towards economic development efforts. And I think that was some of the pandemic relief money that OEDA got and RFP'd that out. We were a recipient of that, GJEP was. And I don't know if that's going to be an annual thing or if they did it just as a one-off. So that would be one example. But as far as larger grants to build out some specs or anything like that from the OEDA perspective, we don't have any of that at this time.
I will say there's a few that we're working on related to economic development that we'll be pursuing, and those are related to the riverfront properties that the city has. So we've been in touch with Department of Local Affairs, and then and there's certain stages you have to be at. We're not there yet, but when we get to those stages, we'll be looking for infrastructure grants to help build out some of the infrastructure that will make that partnership, public-private partnership, and the development of the property, much more have much more of an impact on economic development. And then, as well as the Great Outdoors Colorado, we've received many GOCO grants over the years for the open space and recreational piece of that development, which is key to getting the commercial pieces of that development. Another one that we have worked with DOLA with over the years, and again, it's when we hit a certain stage and there's a certain partnership with, or a level of partnership with a private business for a large acreage that's out near the Fruita Business Park that would need a bridge over the big salt wash. And so that's the third large grant that we'd be pursuing. But pursuing it now doesn't, we're not competitive. You'd have to have an actual project moving forward and partnership before DOLA would consider the grant to be competitive.
Thank you. That's for any questions for you to ask us.
No questions for me. I appreciate your guys' support and being supporters of GJEP for a number of years. And so I just want to say thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. So the action item for us tonight is, are there any of these bullet points that anybody has any questions with? And if they don't, then do we have a motion to move forward on this MOU?
I move to approve the MOU as amended.
Second.
All right, we've got a first and a second. Are there? All right, hearing none. Deb, would you please poll council?
Counselor Cry?
Aye.
Counselor Miller?
Yes.
Counselor Hansi?
Yes.
Counselor Bremen?
Yes.
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Curtis.
Thank you, Curtis.
Thanks, Curtis.
All right, with that, we're going to move into our city manager's report.
All right, we had quite a few updates in the Friday weekly update, as we have a weekly update every Friday. So I'm not going to repeat those. They were in that update. Hopefully you caught those, but a lot of exciting updates of accomplishments last week, and then we'll have more this Friday. But that's all I have for tonight.
All right. With that, then we're going to move into our council reports and actions. So our first item is Enoch Lake sale process and divesting of mountain properties process discussion. So with that, we've got Mike Bennett, our city manager, and Mary Elizabeth Geiger, our city attorney here, that are going to be going over some of this information. And then we're going to be talking about our process for selling property, and not just necessarily Enoch, but what our process is going forward. So who's starting with this one?
I'll start. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Sorry, when I closed the last presentation, I lost my packet. So I just need to pull that up real quick. All right. In the council packet, there's a cover sheet related to this item that had a description of potential options for council. Just to go back in time just a bit, at the August 29th meeting, after council decided not to accept the current offer on Enoch Lake, during the council reports and actions, you directed myself and staff to bring forth options for selling Enoch Lake, and to start, or also in addition to that, to have a conversation related to the other properties that we have on Pinyon Mesa. So, which basically include reservoirs 1, 2, and 3, and some springs. And then we have a large land holding without any water rights that was to be the future home of Reservoir 4 prior to 1983, when the city was no longer able to use the water from up on Pinyon Mesa and contracted with Ute Water. So we did that. I want to mention that we do have our realtor, the city's realtor, Lori Chesnick, in the audience as well, who can help with the discussion or any questions that council has. We did talk with her in considering options for city council. Talking with Lori, and with all the attention that Enoch Lake has had, I know council's a lot of feedback from the council was related to, I think, very clear, very transparent over many years, that we've been trying to divest ourselves of owning and maintaining the properties with an interest in keeping them public. The challenge with Enoch Lake that we've always run into with other agencies, with other groups, is the commitment that is there that has to be continued with water to Ron Tipping. There's an agreement of water that he has owed over many years. It's a non-monetary commitment, so that means it equates to about $140,000, but it's a commitment of delivering water as needed over many years to Mr. Tipping. There's also the requirement for working with the state and the dam safety engineer, and the requirements for jurisdictional dams. So that's something that anybody that owns the lake would has to continue doing. And so with that, I think tonight, the goal tonight was to get clear direction from council on next steps for the process of Enoch Lake. You made it very clear that the city is looking to, in the hearings and in the reports and action, that the city council made it very clear that you're looking to relook at the process for selling, because we received a non-solicited offer, put it through the ordinance process that's required by the city to be able to consider whether you accept or not that offer. The only opportunity that you all have to discuss it is in these meetings, and to create public hearings during an ordinance process, which you did. And the council gave us direction to look at other options to be able to, what kind of process can we do prior to the ordinance process required by our city charter. And the option from those discussions that we've put on in the packet is if you're looking to list that for sale, you can do that on the open market through our realtor, and which would be an actual listing through the MLS. She recommended that with all the attention it's had and basically the 6 weeks that occurred between the two public hearings, July 18th to August 29th. And then since that time, opportunities for people to put offers in, that 30 days would be plenty of time if that's the process you're looking at doing for putting it on the market to sell. That's something you can discuss and ask questions. This would be a full listing with, pictures. It could have the drone footage, all the different things. We did note in the cover sheet the things that would have to be noted. So this would be, an offer would be subject to the tipping agreement, subject to the requirements of working with the state, and subject to an ordinance process, and subject to Ute Water's first right of refusal. So there's a lot of subject tos in this listing, so those would be clear and in the listing. We did reach out. We've discussed this in the past. We do have I'm going blank. The appraisal for the lake, the property, and the water rights. We had reached out to 4 or 5. Our city attorney reached out to 4 or 5 groups that do appraisals, that potentially could do appraisals. That there's a lot of groups that do appraisals, but there's not a lot of groups that do appraisals of water rights, lakes, and things of that nature compared to the amount of people that do appraisals for homes. And we had the one group that would agree to do an appraisal for what Enoch's Lake is. And so we have that appraised value. So that would be a point of discussion of what the amount would need to be for if you were to list it. And that would be a starting point. There's also the non-monetary obligation tied to it to be considered. Tonight, we had hoped to get clear direction on and answer any questions and have an opportunity to discuss what your next steps are with Enoch Lake. And then the other part of the discussion is to talk about next steps with the other properties that were part, and those were actually properties that were part of water coming into the city until 1983. And there's a few points with that, but I think we could talk about those after we talk about Enoch's Lake, so that we don't just throw it too much at you. So why don't we continue with Enoch's Lake and see what questions or discussion you'd like to have, and then when we get back to the other 3, we definitely have some things we want to point out.
All right. Mike. All right. Does anybody want to start with any questions or comments? You want me to start with questions or comments? I guess my first question to council is from our discussion, and Ken and I have sat on this for how many years now? It's been a few. Is that the goal of the city was that property is managed by somebody else. And I think this whole council, I think I'm seeing head nods that we're in agreement with that. And so one of the things I know that was brought up with the hearings was transparency. And so that's part of why we're starting this process is, okay, we can't change the process for actually selling the property. We can change the process, how we want to list it, how we want to get information out to the public on that. And so I think that's our discussion tonight is, okay, I don't think any of us I think the majority of us are in agreement that we want to see the city not manage this property. And so how do we move forward with that? And so I guess that's where I'm going to start the discussion is with information that's given us if we're just looking at Enoch Lake, what do we want to do with that? Because once we list it, and Mike and Mary Elizabeth if we get multiple offers, we can decide what criteria we want. So if somebody says, hey, we want to keep it public, we could accept that offer over one that's a higher dollar amount. Is that correct?
So, yeah, I mean, first off, just like before, well, if you get multiple offers, then the next step would be to discuss those as council and decide which one, yes, which is the most favorable. Whether that's somebody, maybe it's a lower price, but they would keep it open to the public. Maybe that's what's, good for you guys. Or maybe it's somebody, it's a really high price and no contingencies. They don't have to get financing, whatever it might be. That offer though, then needs to go back to you again, for them to decide whether or not they want to purchase it on the same terms. Assuming they don't, then it would go, back through the ordinance process like before.
Okay. So the most favorable one that we would approve goes then through that traditional ordinance process or through our charter mandated process.
Correct.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. So that's where the discussion's starting. So
How does that impact, sorry,
go ahead, Ken.
I'll just, Realtor has a set fee, I'm sure, and if we accepted an offer that wasn't the highest offer, how does that? Doesn't matter? Okay, all right.
That's right.
That's my question. She said it doesn't matter.
Chuckles.
It's just that same percentage of a lower number.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, can I ask a point of clarification?
Yes.
Is the discussion tonight just about the process for Enoch? Or is this the discussion about the process for all mountain properties?
So that's,
I'm
they
going-
wanted to hit Enoch first and then move into the other properties because Enoch is, but I think they'll all tie
Aren't they
together.
intrinsically combined?
Correct.
Okay.
So if we have a process that works for all of them,
I'd like to be consistent in the way we do stuff. Transparent.
Yes.
I think the only thing that I do agree, it needs to be a similar, consistent process. However, they're not the same. So when you list, let's say you list Enoch's Lake is not on U.S. Forest Service land. So it has no agreements with U.S. Forest Service. So that's a whole other, whoever would, if say someone wanted to purchase that, or we were donating it to somebody other than the U.S. Forest Service, there's a whole process related to that has nothing to do with, wouldn't occur with Enoch's Lake. And so there's nuances to some of those. There's acreage of land, and you could treat them all where let's just hypothetically, if you list them and then go through an ordinance process, those types of things could be similar, but there's going to be nuances to different types of property and different types of assets that would go into either one of those two steps.
right, but what I'm hearing is the process would be the same, but the way we accept an offer, no. The process, but why would the process be? The ordinance process will stay the same, but the process of us listing and how we do that may not change.
Right. Well, I mean, this is kind of jumping ahead. But for instance, Reservoir 3, there's no land associated with that whatsoever. It is only the water that is sitting on Forest Service property. So I'm, well, Mike and I talked through, with Kimberly, those reservoirs that sit on Forest Service property, we've had discussions, the city's had discussions for years with other public entities, the Forest Service, CPW, and those would probably be the groups that make the most sense to approach first for those because of the fact that they already sit on public lands. Does that make sense? So that's why that is very different from Enoch's, which is surrounded by private property and sits on, only city-owned property, if that makes, so.
So let's say we take out, I can see the process of that one, but some of these other parcels that we have up there, we actually own land on. So the process for the ones that are land, whether they're land and water or land, would be similar process.
Sure. And so you do have one parcel that's only land, and I think that could fit easily in the same process as you might do for Enoch's Lake. Reservoir 1 does have some land. The dam sits on land owned by the city, but the rest of the reservoir sits on Forest Service land. So a little bit different. And Reservoir 2, as we've all talked about, is currently under a no-fill order. So it's really different because it's got a whole host of issues associated with what's next for that dam, if it's a repair or a breach. So I'm not, I don't see a scenario frankly where that one's really ripe yet for listing because it's sitting in this odd situation where it can't be used.
Right, but part of the I just want to clarify, part of the process we're setting tonight would be when it is ready, then we've already got this in place. So we don't have to go through the same discussion again.
Well, reservoir two may just be what it never actually, like, we are unlikely going to spend the $3 to $4 million to make it right. So that might just look like a whole different process.
Or we may breach and then,
Then we have nothing to sell at that point.
right.
It's just Forest Service land.
I think it's easy to say it's like, it does it have land or not? Land is going to be one process. And I appreciate you bringing that up, Matt, that it's like, we will have, I support consistency among all of them with nuances, but the general idea, I think we can agree on getting agreements on tonight. That's what would be nice.
All right, go ahead.
I would prefer to discuss it in the way that was suggested, which was Enoch first kind of come up with that process and then actually really understand by looking through the packet why these other ones are actually different and maybe not going to be handled in the same way, and have a discussion about that instead of blanketing it all. Discussion and then go on. It may turn out to be the same process, but I see the reasoning behind two separate discussions.
Well, and maybe to help you react, tweak, change, what we laid out in the cover sheet related to everything was pick how you want to list and sell Enoch. It could be followed in anything else you list and sell, right? You can follow the same, you can follow a similar process except for the caveats of what the types of things you're selling that might have some nuances to them. But if you want to list, with the realtor first, and then you want to, and then go to you water that like we have to, and then go through an ordinance process. With the others, what we were recommending is there's been discussions with these entities over the years. So the 3 reservoirs that are on U.S. Forest Service land, we would recommend before listing any of those properties that we actually with our realtor write up a formal offer of donation to the U.S. Forest Service. First, actually, I should say to you water first. We've tried this. They've never taken us up on it. We've tried with U.S. Forest Service. They've never taken us up on it, but this is staff talking with staff. But like write up a real offer that they have a period of time to accept. Because just for instance, if U.S. Forest Service were to accept a donation like that, and continue managing as they do and work with us, then these are public, accessible bodies of water. And that would be an ideal situation. The city's no longer, we can't use the water. We can't for their original purpose. No matter how many comments we hear over time about that's just a fact. But if they can be used for recreation and they can be used by some Glade Park residents with the pipeline that's there, for irrigation currently. So if we were to put it so they have to make a decision, right? U.S. Forest Service would have to water first, and then U.S. Forest Service, and then we could try Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and we could consider Mesa County. Those are entities that have some connection, some involvement currently, and they're public entities that can maintain the insurance. And the hope would be to maintain the public access. We give them time to react to those, and then we go to the next one, and then we go to the next one. And after going through that whole thing, but they would need to know, because this is what we've never had before, that there is an intent for the city to no longer manage these. If they know that we're just going to continue managing, then of course they don't want to, because they don't want the liability of the dams. That's their reasoning up until this point of not accepting those bodies of water. But again, we've never given a formal offer that they have, 90 days or whatever it is to accept that and move on. We're not recommending that with Enoch because they have no interest. It's not connected to their land. They don't have the resources. They've been very clear about that for many years with us. It's surrounded by private property with commitments to some of those private property owners. So it's different in that respect. It's not sitting on public land. It's not tied to public land. It's not tied to public access areas. And there's a multitude of differences there.
You speak, so Reservoir 4, that's 125.45 acres.
Well, and there is no Reservoir 4.
Right. That's the name of it though. Reservoir 4, never constructed. It's 125 plus acres. To me, that's new in the discussion. We've not really talked about that asset. Does that have water rights with that?
No.
So it is just straight property, no rights.
Yeah.
And it's surrounded by whom? Where's that property?
No, that number, that 120 acres is not ours, surrounded by ours.
Mary Elizabeth, you're gonna have to speak into the mic if,
Sorry.
yeah, that's all right.
Right.
Kimberly, if you're gonna speak, you're gonna have to get in front of the mic.
The 125 acres, that was where Reservoir 4 would have gone. Does not, it abuts some private property.
Do we have a map by why?
Yeah,
Do we have a
I
map?
thought we were putting a map in. Did it not go in?
We just never, I want to make sure that we're all up to speed as well, but this is one that we've talked least about. And I think that as we get to talk about 4, that helps to have then a more consistent dialogue that I think that we can have and have consistency among everything, yet deal with the nuances.
So that 125 acres is abuts some private property, abuts some Forest Service land. It does have the county road that goes through it. And also pipelines that go through it. So it'd be subject to, those rights.
What's that second thing? Roads and what?
Pipelines, the water pipelines out of Reservoir 1 go through that piece of property.
So really my understanding is that Enoch Lake and Reservoir 4 are similar types of business. It's land. I know one has water and has restrictions, but the others, that's kind of differentiation is how I see it as Enoch Lake 4 and then 1 through 3 are separate.
I mean, that's not to say that CPW or the Forest Service would not want that parcel because it does abut some public.
That's where I
lands
see
as
like
well.
Enoch Lake and 4 are very similar and everything else has got some fun nuances but I think we can have a consistent conversation with Enoch Lake and 4, have similar approach.
So maybe to make it easier, talking about Reservoir 2 and 3 that are national forest, Mike's kind of laid out, I think what I feel a good process. I don't know what everybody else feels like approaching the different entities. I
mean, that's not this discussion, but I would offer some maybe changing of order. That was it. The
Right.
process, yes, order, question.
different. Okay. All right. So with that, there's a majority of us in agreement that we want to start with the physical property. Ken gave a thumbs up. Yes.
Physical properties.
Physical property because they're going to have similar process. All right.
Enoch Lake and 4.
So Enoch Lake and 4. So, all right, I'm open to discussion.
One of my first questions is, what's the value of keeping it open? We're trying to encourage. So number 1 is we want to sell, right? I think we're all in agreement there. Number 2 is we'd love to keep things public. Right now, when it comes to Enoch Lake, we don't have a solution to keep it public at all. And but we have individuals that are trying to find a public solution. So my thought is, do we keep Enoch Lake? It's put it on the market for 90, 120 days. So we can give that time to see if it professes anything. And then at the end of the day, it's just,
That's too long of a time period.
why is that?
You're saying like you would accept bids through that entire 4 months? That's a really long time to ask buyers to
To wait.
just have a big
I get-
question mark.
And that's fair. That's a good point.
in terms of tying up
Especially
capital and.
because of how public this has been, and I think Enoch Lake is just completely different because of how much we've already discussed it, and how public the process has been for the last, several months, that the word is out, putting it on the MLS is going to put it out worldwide. So, 30 days.
Delay a 30-day window.
Well, so you see what comes in 30 days. You can always extend your listing. You can always say, okay, we're gonna extend another 30 days. We're gonna accept bids. I think 120 days is way too long.
I guess the reason why I say that is because we have a particular party that's trying to keep it public, and they need time if they want to have something up. So,
but an offer.
They need a buyer. They need a buyer, not time. Like they can't.
yeah,
do it.
understood. Sorry.
Yeah.
They
They need a
like
buyer.
they're trying to find a buyer who will
Partner with them.
Yeah.
I feel like we made the discussion or the decision to decline the original offer, so we could come up with a process that was clear and equitable to anyone who may be interested. Like that everybody had the same notice, the same amount of time, and that is not the previous people who made an offer, not people who have already expressed interest, but just across the board for anybody who might be interested. Everybody's at the same starting point and the same deadline. Completely fair.
I would agree.
So, whether that be 30 days or 60 more, I think 90 or 120 is too much. I could see some reason to 60, but even 30 more, that's 3 months total from when we first said we're going to extend this conversation. So the first alert till
Yeah, we definitely have
30,
had
it
some
would be
history.
3 months. If it's 60, it'd be 4.
And we also have
That's
public
just-
hearing process too. On
Right, I
top
mean,
of
it started in June.
So
I mean, it
these
started June 17th or 18th.
Right, but it was clear that we were going to consider taking some more time, July 18th. So from that time on, so that if we do 30 days, it's 3 months from July 18th. If we do 60, it's 4 months. And then an ordinance after that for whatever offer. But for me, it's to be fair and equitable to anyone who's interested. That's why why I even wanted to get to this discussion.
Yes.
So I don't know if everybody else feels that way, but to me, that's why we're here today. And I would be comfortable with the 30 or 60 days.
I appreciate that, Janine. That's right where I'm at too. I will support 60. Just for the opportunities. But I do appreciate the understanding of too big of a windows, not a productive process.
Or appealing. I mean, because you're going to add.
Going for the ride, that's a
more
long
time.
ride.
Even after, a contract is accepted, still have to go through
It's not the normal.
a big,
private,
long
the public
process.
is
Yeah.
private. Yeah. And that's fair. So I appreciate that, Janine, and I definitely am supporting a 60-day window. But just to reemphasize, fresh start. It was a big reason why what we did.
And feel free to keep in mind, you have your realtor here. You can ask questions of timeframes and what her professional opinion is. So in regards to listings.
I mean, this has been now rough calculations, 105 days of conversations about this. I think 30 days, I'm more comfortable actually. I think 30 days, once we set forth, is a little rushed. I think 60 is too long. I'm more comfortable with 45 days, kind of splitting that difference. What the understanding is, when an offer is presented, not everything, I'm looking just to confirm, sorry, I'm looking in the wrong direction here. To confirm, not everything has to be, it's an offer, which can have contingencies on it. In that offer. Yeah, I'm asking.
Lori.
Yes.
Laura, you have to come up to the mic.
This is assuming.
So, but for the record, I mean, it doesn't have to be, we have 100% of our financing in place. We have all these things in place. It can be an offer with contingencies on that side.
Could be an offer with contingencies. That doesn't mean you'd have to accept it. So you'll have a chance to review offers as they come in. So in a perfect world, we get an offer.
I'm asking, do we get to review them as they come in, or in this process, is it we wait the 45 days and then
You would just need
look at
to,
them all at once?
you would need to meet in a meeting and you could review them, you could discuss them as they come in. Once, if you put a time frame on it, then you could have a meeting to discuss all of them together, which I mean, I think you would want to do at that point. I think if we picked a time frame for listing, you want to kind of pick a time frame where it ends and there's a meeting that you'll have that discussion soon, you know,
And of course, all those meetings are executive session due to real estate
Or are the offers public record? Help us understand.
how would you describe an offer?
It's one of these, I just want to make sure, and part of this is I want to make sure everybody
They are
here
public, sir.
has the exact same information about what this process would look like. So there's no confusion of, oh, this is done behind closed doors or this is public. Let's just.
So,
get this straight.
So as we've talked about before, you know, there is a difference between when the city is selling property versus when it's buying it, right? And so since this is a situation where you're selling, those offers would be public. So what I would suggest is, sure, you can schedule that. And Mike had a great point. You would want to have a meeting pretty soon as possible after that listing time period closed. Discuss them in open session. You can always have a placeholder for an executive session if you have any questions of me about, the offers. And then you would make a decision in open session as to which one you wanted to move forward to Water for their review. And then assuming that comes back as a no, then you would set that offer for the ordinance process.
Okay. So
That-
the offers are public.
Makes sense. Mhm.
Okay.
I appreciate what you said, Mike, about strategic date setting. As we're discussing, can you confirm, like, is something like the end of December, end of October, which is 40 something days? We have a meeting on the 7th of November, if that's a good date. If we shut by 10/31, is 7 a good time frame to, is the big item is just a budget.
It wouldn't be that fast because Lori would need time to prepare the
Even more,
listing,
okay.
and there's no way we can.
If we want to have a 30-day window, when can we have that window start?
10 days, 12 days for photography and getting all the documentation together.
Do we need to have this in
So that would be roughly the 29th
of regular hearing?
of September. So then if the window, that takes us to, the logical time would be November 7th.
If we do 30 days?
Well, no, it's a little bit more, the 29th. I mean, we could back end, if we wanted to do 30, we could work backwards from November 7th as to when it gets listed.
Well, it depends on how many, again, we can set that window, so we can say the closing date, correct? Lori has
Right.
whatever date. It doesn't have to be 30, it doesn't have to be 45.
We could say November 7th at 5 PM.
Well, we'd want before that because they need to get them in. How much time do you need to get them
Every time
prepared?
an offer comes in, I'll review it, do a net proceed sheet on it, get the information and then present it. I'm assuming I'm going to be presenting it to Mike. Is that how I present it to? And then he would in turn get it all to all of you.
So I'm saying if we normally get our council packets the Friday before, we'd want to plan that we'd have information, so we have time to digest it. I never like having a meeting where we get the information the day of or the day before, 'cause
Right.
it doesn't give us enough opportunity to review.
So then that would take it to
November
August
20th.
31st. I'm sorry, October, yeah.
Go for it.
That gives us still the 30 days.
And you could also, I mean, just kind of thinking through your meetings from a week from today through the first meeting in December, you're going to have a lot of budget presentations and discussion. There's a lot of focus on preparing the 2024 budget, which means there's a lot of time in those meetings. So, I mean, you could also consider scheduling a special meeting with a date for this, kind of like you did with August 29th, so that the only item you're discussing that night or that time that's publicly noticed and on the calendar, could pick a date just to review the offers that we've received and have that discussion.
So with that.
Just one thing I wanted to clarify really quickly. I know Lori had said you could review offers as they come in. Really, we need to review, you guys need to review them all at the same time. Because you're considering, if you're saying we're giving people 45 days or 30 days to submit an offer, you should not be then like discussing the first one that comes in, let's say week 1, and you say, not that one. And then like the next one, not that one. We'll wait and see what else comes in. Get them all in a pile, so to speak, and have that discussion on all of them, at which point you may say, well, this offer, no, this offer, no, this offer, no, this is the offer we're sending to you. Does that make sense?
So
yeah, so that's the date you're looking for, but I just wanted to clarify that it's not going to be a discussion like as they come in.
Thank you.
and the big, if I'm looking at the schedule, future schedule, October or December 5th is the big budget date that we're getting the whole budget done by the 5th, right? And then we have previous meetings that are all set.
Yeah, and it's not to say there's not room to add this on. We can definitely do that. I just want you to know that you also have the opportunity to schedule another meeting. But if it's simpler to pick a first or third Tuesday of any of the months, we have room to add it on. It's just, yeah, I don't want to.
Comfortable with scheduling a special meeting.
So, right.
Yeah.
So I guess the first question should be, if we're going to schedule a special meeting, or if we're going to try and hit into a regular meeting, is what does the majority of council feel comfortable with as far as timing? So is it 30 days? Is it 45? Is it 60? We can set a meeting. If we're gonna do a special meeting, we can set that at any time, and we've got time to do that if we're giving 30 to 60 days window like that. So I guess that's my first question to council is,
So we can.
what is that time? What is everybody comfortable? What's the majority of you guys? Because that's what it comes down to. The majority of us, what is the timeline that we're comfortable with?
And do we count starting whenever we decide tonight as the start? I mean, I know we'll be.
No, whenever-
No. We'll be listed. I understand that, but I'm just saying when we're thinking about people understanding what our intent is, do we consider that?
No, we would
We
say
just-
like,
we
It's
will-
from
we
like
want it
stake in the
listed
ground.
12 days from now.
Right. It's the 45 days from stake in the ground.
Perfect.
Right.
Okay.
So we're
I
looking.
just wanted to clarify.
So we're looking to put it on the market at the soonest is around October 1st.
Or right prior to, correct.
Yeah.
So I guess I just, for conversation's sake, it's like October 1st is kind of our start deadline. Do we?
does that give you enough time, Lori?
So like the first ish, do we want to go to the end of, it'd be nice to have a meeting, I think, in the by the 15th, like mid-November is what I would like to have a meeting to review. So it's like kind of back up from that is like a week before is definitely when we want to have the close is how I guess I look at it.
We're not going to close.
Or sorry, close the window of accepting, close the window of
Just saw
accepting.
somebody panic over there.
I'm not a realtor.
The 14th. we
Close the window of accepting offers by
would-
the first week into November-ish, so we can
So the
have a
question is,
special
are we
meeting.
at how many days? Like, let's not look at if we don't look at the calendar, do we want 30 days, 45 days?
That's my
60
question
days?
is what does everybody feel comfortable with allowing offers to come in? Because that's the meetings, we're
speak
gonna go
first and
round
say
and round down the
45.
days.
I'll speak first and say 45.
I like it as how I'm looking at the calendar.
Yeah.
So we can have a meeting mid-November.
But,
No, because that's when your listing period would end.
but,
That's when your
I'm
offer period
approaching
would
it differently as I'm saying I would like to have a meeting mid-November.
but I'm also looking at this
So now you
as
want a 30.
however we approach this, I
Well,
think sets precedent for other items.
Right.
So I don't want to just, this is a precedent and it's going to look weird. Not weird, that's not the right word. I think it's going to create problems if we say, oh, this is 45 days, but something else is 60 days.
Well, and
And I understand it's two different,
I would just, Counselor Bremen, I would just say I would disagree because property is unique. And this one has, to Counselor Purser's point, been, you guys have talked about it for a while. So you're not setting precedent, you're not adopting any policy tonight. You know, you're not doing anything formal. I just want that to be.
And I appreciate that. I think from a public perception though, I mean, we're here with the nuances and we understand that, but from a public perception, my personal feeling is that if we say it's 30 days, 45 days, that's kind of keep that moving
Are you
forward with other.
talking about just for these mountain properties or are you
Yes.
talking about any?
I was talking about for mountain properties in general. That's my preference. I understand.
I think where we get, and I hear where you're coming from a perception standpoint, but if we make an offer to a federal agency to accept a donation, it's going to have to be a different time frame based on the federal government's timeframes for considering that.
We're not talking about selling, we're not talking about donating.
Okay.
Selling.
So there's a,
Outside of the donation, that's a separate.
If we're putting a
item.
stake in the ground.
yes.
Okay.
I would like to ask Lori, is 45 days, is that good?
45 days is fine. There's been enough publicity about it. Everybody knows about it. Yes, 45 days is plenty.
Is it too much? I think that's, his question isn't, is it enough? It's also, or is it too much?
We may not have an offer in 45 days.
Yeah, that's it.
And if
That was my next question.
And if that's the case, then we would go ahead and just continue on. It's on the open market. We just don't have a deadline then at that point in time. And then when an offer did come in, and of course, this is my first foray into committee meetings and just that I'm like,
Fun.
since let's get whatever I have.
This is not our normal transaction, Lori.
Understanding that now. So if we don't get any offers in 45 days, the property is still going to be listed for sale. And then at that point in time, look to legal counsel and the city manager and whatever to say how they want it to proceed. If it's only one offer comes in on the 46th day, how is that handled then? Same thing, same process? Or are we going to say, okay, we're going to take it, take them for another 44 days after that? I think if we don't have anything in 45 days, we do get an offer in, I think it gets
That's the
presented at.
Put it through an ordinance process. Yeah.
Exactly.
We haven't heard from James. What are your thoughts, James?
I don't know. I just thought this wasn't the route I was planning on going with this. I would really like to hear where Friends of Enoch are and what they've done, if they move forward with their nonprofit at all. I know we want to get rid of it. I would really like to see it stay public if it can. I would like to see it end up in the hands of people in Glade Park. That's my personal preference. That might not be the reality, but I would like to at least pursue that. And I know that they reached out about being put on as an agenda item, and it wasn't the correct way that we can do it, but we still don't even know what they're doing. We haven't heard from them. We don't know we have no updates on them. Last we heard, they were going to start a nonprofit, and I thought that was a great move forward. And I was just kind of waiting to hear about that. And I thought that was kind of what we were going to be talking about, was how we could work maybe with the city of Glade Park to possibly turn this into something that they owned and not us. And we're saying that we can donate these other properties to like the Forest Service and things like that. And I don't know, maybe I was in a little happy bubble, but I was hoping that maybe these guys got their nonprofit and maybe we could donate it to them, or there was other ways forward. So as far as the question that's on the table, 45 days seems reasonable. So I guess that's.
I want to address that question, though, James.
Man, I'm just a little off on.
So I served on the Camp Hope board for 7 years. That's the old Camp Kiwanis. Camp Kiwanis sold it to them for $1. So just because the Friends of Enoch Lake have the same opportunity, according to Janine's, comments, is that if they want to offer us $1, they have that same opportunity to do that. And then we have the same opportunity to look at that offer. If it's being kept public, if that's our higher priority for that property, then we have that choice on the offers that come in. So I don't think they're off the table. I think there's lots of.
I like that you say that, and I want them to realize that they're not off the table, because it really feels like they're off the table right now. So I just I like that was pointed out, that especially due to the fact that they moved forward with the nonprofit, and it would make it so it was a possibility of being in Glade Park possession for that community. That's where I would really like to see it happen.
Yeah, I don't think any of
With
us.
that,
Any of us disagree.
Yeah, so I'm just happy that is an option.
they can put in theory, like an offer with contingencies that then we have to kind of weigh.
Accept or
So
not.
it's not, I don't think anybody has said it's to the highest bidder.
That's
No.
good. And I'm happy
Right.
that that's been clarified, because if it wasn't clarified, I don't know that that's necessarily would be the thought process if you were on that side.
Well, I apologize. If that wasn't at all clear about what I was saying. That was the intent of my whole thing that I was saying, which was that anybody could make an offer and everyone has equal opportunity and we look at them all. So.
I think the things that would need to be addressed in an offer for $1 would be the approach to the liability. Like the insurance is just huge. You know, the liability is big, and the maintenance of the dam are two big things. So those would definitely need to be, in my opinion, they would definitely need to
They need to be addressed within the offer.
And then also the water that we owe Mr. Tipping, those are things that we, would most certainly need to be line items on there that that they would need to include in an offer.
And all of that's going to be listed as caveats in the actual listing.
Right.
Correct. Yeah. So there'd be all the subject twos, maintaining the dam, working with the state, all those that were just mentioned. And a real offer would address,
I guess I
how
have a
would
question
address
for you,
those.
and Lori might be able to answer it, maybe Mary Elizabeth. Say we get an offer in and it's a nonprofit and there's things that aren't in there that we need to make sure, according to what Amy's saying. How do you make counter offers if
It's an ordinance.
it's an ordinance process? I mean, because that would be, because all of a sudden it's like, hey, we have to address
Is that not
these.
the
These aren't in the
executive
official,
session?
they're not in the initial
Well,
offer.
You wouldn't accept, you would still just do a counter offer a counter proposal, because you're not accepting, a counter proposal doesn't mean you've accepted that offer.
Right.
It means here, okay, we've considered.
We're trying to make a
offers.
decision on maybe multiple offers. That's where I'm trying to figure out, where's that fair? If we're talking about being fair across the board,
Well, how's it normally handled in a real estate transaction if that were the case?
make a counter offer.
Yeah, but they don't have to be fair. You don't have to be fair. We have to be fair. You don't if you're selling a house.
Well, it depends on how you define. Actually, I think there's more regulations in terms of selling a house in terms of being fair.
Nope.
But
You can
Right,
You
accept
could
it.
take a worse.
So let's assume we actually get multiple offers. Or you guys have multiple offers in front of you. That's the point of that discussion, is to look at all of those and see which one the majority of you want to move forward with. And if the answer is, we have this offer for $1 from a nonprofit that can keep it public, but it doesn't mention anything about the dam, let's say, like how they're going to manage to take care of that. But that's the one we want to go with. The other two, we're scrapping, we want to go with this one. We make here's your writ. You can ask for that, one of those, and I'll look to Lori for this. Let's say they want to look to one of those to possibly stay as a backup offer. So placeholder backup offer for the second best. Go back to the, nonprofit and with a counter proposal for, we need to see some concrete evidence of how you're taking care of the dam.
And we would do that in an executive session position to get back to if we want to counter or not, right?
Well, negotiations can be talked about in executive session. So.
Then it'd become public hearing process once we accept an offer.
Well, that's only if they can come back and meet that counter proposal. If they cannot accept your counter proposal, if they can't, meet that, then you go to your backup offer. Does that make sense? I mean, we're kind of, I think, really getting ahead of trying to come up with every potential scenario that might come across your.
But I think
Talk about the
this one, there's
Because today-
an actual scenario that's kind of on the table a little bit that
It might
make
be,
sense
and
to
so,
look at.
but that's
That's
how I
why-
think we would that's how I think we would handle that. But I think we can't anticipate the exact process until you see the exact offers.
Sure.
But I would thank you right now, because that's what I needed to hear. For me to feel comfortable moving forward, I feel a lot better now that we've just had the conversation that we had for the past 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So yes, 45
So-
minutes is
so
45 or 45.
30 to 45 days. What is it? 45?
45.
So 45 from the listing date, which would be around October 1st. Okay.
we want to back into a meeting date
or we set a special meeting.
Well,
So,
that's,
so the question is, does everybody want to either set a special meeting date or have it with a council meeting?
Well,
I'm-
however it falls, I'm fine with.
I'm fine with whatever. I know that I am unavailable from the 21st to the 28th
Of
of
November?
November. And that's kind of where the 45 goes. That's why
Mhm.
I've appreciated the conversations, and that steers me towards like 45. And then due to date wise, that's where I'm thinking offer by the end of October, early November, so we can have
At the special
a,
on the 7th.
so we can meet, yeah, we can talk about it on the 7th, or if we have a special meeting around the 14th.
Mike, when you're looking at our schedule forward, can you tell how heavy those are going to be at this point? To add this, or would it make sense to do a special?
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have at every one of those meetings in November, at least an hour and a half of other content. So
Let's make it easy. Is everybody open on the 14th?
The
For a
14th is
special meeting.
Planning and zoning meeting though,
That's
so
planning commission night.
Then you wouldn't, yeah, then that one.
15th, just Wednesday the 15th. Close the window by the 8th and have a meeting by the 15th. Special meeting on the 15th.
I mean, that's a different board meeting that I'd have to miss, but that's. okay.
Well, then what about the 16th? I mean, there's,
16th is fine.
about November 16th.
I might not be available.
or do you have a special meeting on like the 9th or or a Monday?
Monday, the 13th.
Mondays are gonna be.
13th. Better for you?
Yeah.
it'd be better for me too.
So the 13th, so we could put a tentative meeting or put a meeting on the 13th. If we don't get any offers, then depending on what we're doing here, then we wouldn't have to have that meeting.
if you do the 13th, then you're looking at, you've got to close it before 45 days. If we're assuming we're putting it up on around the 2nd, which is a Monday, or the 1st is a Sunday.
Right, you'd be closing it at like 40 days.
Which is, I'm just pointing that out. I don't want to,
How many days does staff need?
well, we'd have to put a packet out at minimum 24 hours before that meeting. We'd calendar that the meeting's occurring long before that, but the packet would have to go out 24 hours ahead of time. So
Push it back to the 20th.
I would prefer that we'd put that packet out. If we're meeting on the 13th, that we're putting the packet out on the 9th. And
We don't hit our 45.
I think the 20th would be better.
Yeah.
45 is an arbitrary number.
Close it on the
You-
16th and
Well, I'm
20th.
looking for,
I know, all right.
No, I think keeping it.
So the 20th, so is everybody good on the 20th?
I'm definitely not.
that's the week of Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah. Oh, listen.
So that's what I'm saying. Or we,
Why don't we drop to 40
Well,
days and
the
do it the 13th
40 days is a good number, right?
and do it the 13th?
I mean, we have full control of how many days we pick. So, I mean, if we say 40 on this one and we want to say 40 on another one we talk about later, we have that, we're giving that same opportunity. Because my assumption is when we start talking about the other properties tonight, we're probably going to look at listing those at the same time. So we may have to schedule a public hearing for Enoch and a public hearing for the 125 acres for Reservoir 4. So they may both be on that same agenda on that same night.
I'm fine as long as we're consistent.
Right.
I'd like them all to kind of land on the same day.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Mhm.
So am I hearing the 13th for a special meeting? Would be approximately 40 days then to give everybody time.
And then when are we having Lori go live with the listing?
As soon as she can get it.
40 days prior to.
40,
Well, is that meaning walking out of this meeting with a green light to start working on it tomorrow?
Oh, for
Okay,
sure.
that's,
Right.
I'm just trying to clarify.
right. And that would be our process. We're going to list the land and accept offers for 40 days. And with a meeting scheduled for the 13th on any offers that come in. Which would that give staff and everybody enough time? And everybody's available. Mary Elizabeth, you're available. Kimberly's available.
7 o'clock on the 13th.
No, it's whatever time we want to set because it's a special meeting.
That's what I'm
Could be
suggesting.
Was really nice. 6:30 was.
So I'm hearing, is everybody good at 6:30 on the 13th, Mike?
Yes,
Okay. So do we need a motion to
yes.
get this ball rolling? All right.
It's just direct.
Wait. It's just giving direction. Yeah.
So, Lori, I will ask you this. I'm assuming you need a price. It needs to
right.
be listed for a price.
Well, I think the appraised value.
50 plus the
Appraised value plus the water value.
has to have.
Or not.
However
let me
that goes
rephrase
down.
that. Let me rephrase what I just said, because that's not accurate. That price plus
Commitment to
a
water.
commitment, yes, let me be
Supply water.
correct.
Well,
Let me
and
be-
that's going to be part of the listing is, I mean, anything is subject to supplying that water.
I just said it the wrong way and I just wanted to clarify.
By saying that, we not need to put that in our price then? Is that they're gonna be obligated to it or are we?
You're going to be obligated to it because it would be up to the Mr. Tipping if he were willing to accept cash.
Oh, really? Oh,
Oh, the agreement is to give him water. That is the.
so we
standing
couldn't
agreement.
even just buy him out if we
No.
wanted to. Okay.
No.
So is everybody good with the appraised value? That's another, so that's again, all the stuff we have to discuss tonight.
I am okay with it. I just understand what we're giving up by doing that. But I'm okay with it. I think it's the right thing to do.
Clarify.
We had an
Remember-
offer on the table for.
Oh, I
We
see.
had
I
that
see.
other offer.
We still might get it.
We still might get it, but I think it's the proper way to do it.
Yeah.
Whatever price you set doesn't mean you can accept any price, no matter what's listed. Just like if you're selling your house.
But
You
what
might
Lori's
not.
saying is we have to have a list price.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to be in agreement, the majority of us on the list.
So you're not, we're just saying you're not giving anything up below that price. You still have the opportunity to consider offers below that price.
Right, or above that price. on the other
Exactly.
side. Okay, so is the majority good with our appraised price, which was what, 420, 425? Well, Laura, go ahead.
I was gonna revisit the question I had earlier, because there was talks of a dollar offer, which I don't think that should be like any sort of position we're in right now.
Correct.
It's just an idea. But let's say in that hypothetical world of a dollar, you make 3 cents.
You're right.
It can be a couple of different things. There could be a flat fee
Yeah.
instead of a percentage.
Okay.
And she can write that into our, well, or I guess, do you have, yeah.
Yeah.
But we could discuss.
Yeah, and I can do.
Yeah, because we would definitely want to make sure.
Amendment and we could.
Great point,
adjust.
Ken.
And we could if we want to, also, we could say it's a percentage or.
Yeah.
And we can
whichever
always
is
amend
greater.
that. I mean,
Right.
that's something that we can amend after we.
Mary Elizabeth,
figure out
is-
which-
wait, we're gonna get the legal
Well,
response.
I was actually just gonna say exactly that, once you see the offers and then make your decision, which direction you're going, you could amend the agreement with Lori accordingly, if it makes sense to change it based upon what's in
Our
front of you.
direction.
The only thing we couldn't change is the compensation we're offering the other agent.
Right.
Now, I
Correct.
can change My side, and I'm happy to do that as I just did on the other transactions. I'm happy to do that because it's Fruita, it's for the good of Fruita. So, but we cannot change. If we're offering 2.5%, say, to a cooperating agent, I can't change that. I can change my side.
So they'll get to.
But people do not have.
They're 25.
2.5 cents.
Buyers do not have to make offers though through an agent. They can make if they don't have to work with an agent. So I would presume that if someone were making a donation offer or a dollar offer, my guess is they're probably, not factoring in working with a realtor for that reason.
Probably. So they're going to have an attorney prepare it, or they're a nonprofit and they're going to have it go on, online, you can print off a contract.
We've seen that.
Yes, we have seen that. And that's,
You've seen that.
So Lori, what other information do you need from us or any other questions we should be asking before this?
I don't think I need to ask anything else. I know where the property's at. I've been up there numerous times. I know the legal description. I know what that's included. I know all the caveats that we have to have in there, subject to water, first right of refusal, subject to the meetings and the whole process, which is a learning curve for me again, getting used to it. And that's basically it. The only thing I'm not clear on, and that's probably I need to talk to the attorney, is typically in a real estate transaction, multiple offers come in, I review offers and turn them over to the seller. And it would be, I would be to you guys as the sellers. So then that was instead of. Okay.
That'll help us just have it ready to put that packet out right when we, yeah, exactly. Mhm.
So the offers would not be public until that meeting.
Right, we put them in a packet
Well,
24 hours ahead of that.
Right.
Make sure.
So you'd be saying, Mike, you'd be putting the packet together on the 9th, that Thursday, because that would give us a few more days, or that Friday. It doesn't really matter, does it?
That's the first time we would put them out. Technically, if there was a record request and we had something that we had received from someone else that didn't go through attorneys, then yes, it's public record and we'd have to turn it over. Just like anything that meets that.
All right, so to get this item moving forward, we just need a motion that says we want to list it for 40 days. And
425.
well, I don't even know if we need to do that.
No, I think we're gonna be clear.
All right. All right.
Can I just say for clarity, if we're meeting on the 13th and we want to put a packet out on the 9th, then I think it'd be nice if you could be clear on, we receive offers through the 8th so that we could get that if we're getting everything together. Because if you say 40 days and we put that packet out and it's just,
It takes 3 more days to get it listed. Then all of a
I
sudden,
would prefer that you all say to get it listed as soon as she can, assuming that's at
The
the
listing
beginning.
would definitely not say 40 days.
And that we're going to accept those through the 8th of November so that we can get that packet out the next day. I'd just be clear. I'd rather it be clear on that.
So would the motion be, we approve the listing of the property known as Enoch Lake with all bids due by 5 PM on the 8th
of November.
With a listing price of the appraised value of $425,000 with the conditions mentioned.
Mountain Standard Time, Ken said.
MST, baby.
That sounds like a good motion. Is that your motion?
That works.
And that's
So moved.
So we've got a motion.
Second.
We got a first and a second. Is there any other discussion? All right, hearing none. Deb, would you please poll council?
Counselor Cray, Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
Counselor Bremen,
Yes.
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
Counselor Williams, motion passes 6-0.
All right, don't go anywhere, Lori. All right, so are we going to move into our reservoir number 4? Does that make sense to move into that one next since it's similar?
It is similar, but it could be one that you also want to make an offer of donation to those public agencies because it does abut some of their property and there are other pieces on it that are not, that are tied to the pipeline with those other reservoirs. So, it's up to you all, but
You're saying reservoir 1 through 4 are pretty similar, that we may want to go through that process.
Right, and one other thing about, and I'd like to stop calling it Reservoir 4 because that implies there's water, there's no water. So call it the 125 acres.
Okay.
And it is like a peninsula. I don't know if I should. Sitting.
I'd like to see a map.
Forest Service. Forest Service is green, BLM's yellow.
Oh, yeah.
Just a quarter-mile strip of private.
Okay,
That's abutted by private.
perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I was gonna say,
Your other council-
it is adjacent to
Not
the
cool enough
Fruita
for some.
campground or picnic area, excuse me, adjacent to the Fruita picnic area, which is within the Forest Service. So yes, it is.
Yeah, so we would definitely want to offer that.
And then that's a road that runs between them.
Yes.
That again, one more time.
Yep.
So are we thinking about offering all 3?
3 plus the 1.
1, 3, and 4, or
1, 2, 3,
125. We're not going to call it 4.
the biggest difference with 125 acres is it is not subject to a first right of refusal with Ute Water.
So it doesn't have any.
Right.
But are you looking for,
That easy.
Service.
are you looking for direction from us to see if we want to have those 3 grouped together and just go ahead and try to give them away to them?
Yeah, I guess what I would ask you
4
to
of them.
consider is 2 things. One, I'd like to see if you would like us to draft a resolution to create a little more clarity of why we are looking to do this. Whereas all the liability statements, all the reasons why the city is looking to do this, and the intention of hoping to keep especially these properties public, right? And something that we can just have that we can point to. You did this when we were doing the building department. It was not a resolution, but you sent a letter when people asked. It's on the website. The whereases are there, they're in the descriptions, but we make it a formal, and that's something we could bring to you, a draft at the workshop, and then you could consider approving it, make tweaks at a future meeting. So that's one thing, one ask. And the other would be how there's a few things with these properties. So we currently have an RFP out for breaching Reservoir 2. That's not a decision to breach it. We've been very clear. You all have you gave us direction to put that RFP out so that we could see if we got a response of bids on what it would cost to breach, because we know the cost to fix Reservoir 2 is in the millions. So we want to have something to at least compare that to. We also have the NRCS study that's pending out there. We have followed up with Bureau of Reclamation multiple times. I shouldn't say we. Kimberly Bolin has followed up with them multiple times, even this week. And we're just not getting a response. We know that the consulting firm that they paid, not us, to do the study, turned it over to them months ago, and we're just waiting on their approval to turn it over to us. I am 99% that we are not going to have some big solution of that. And the focus would be, are there some other funding sources to help fix Reservoir 2? And all indications throughout the process of that study being put together was not very positive that there are good opportunities for that. So those things are pending out there, but we would like, no matter what happens with the study, what happens with the breach or not, there is no reason in my mind to wait to start drawing up offers of donation of these properties to Ute Water, except for the 125, and then U.S. Forest Service, and then Colorado Parks and Wildlife. And if we got through at least those, then I think it makes sense to talk again if all of them deny us. But if we could get, those are the two big asks that we have related to those.
County would be after that.
And that would be up to you all. I mean, Mesa County.
Question lies.
Mesa County, I think it's a little different than those where I would feel much more comfortable where we bring them into a joint discussion about it and not just put that offer before them. But it's up to you all. But I think we could talk about Mesa County if the Forest Service and CPW decline it, is my opinion.
What were you thinking, Matthew?
So, and this gets back to trying to keep as much stuff local as possible. So, which is why I was thinking Mesa County first. They are Mesa County residents.
That's a good point.
So wouldn't it make sense to offer it to the governing body of Mesa County before we go to the other entities? That was
with the idea that we're gonna, if they don't want to move forward, that's where we're gonna go. That
that's actually a wonderful point, because the beneficiaries of these properties, not just in recreation, but in the irrigation with the Glade Park Water Users Association, are Mesa County residents outside of the city Fruita. So
that was my logic.
Yeah, makes a
If
lot of
they
sense, man.
said no, which I assume they would, maybe they would consider signing a on with a letter of ours, trying to get.
I think that would be great if they would support our, the Forest Service and CPW if they did decline first.
We agree with that. Sorry, Janine.
With that offer, if we did start with them first.
You're talking about Mesa County first?
Did start with Mesa County, would we be really clear about the intent to be maintain public? That it would be maintained as public?
I think it would be hard for Mesa County to.
I think it's gonna be in our whereas is.
Okay.
Doesn't have to.
And then if they decide not to do that,
Okay,
then they can deal with it.
That's why
That's why Mike's saying, let's write up this document. Then it's
So
got our
remember though, the very first offer has to go to Ute Water.
Right.
yeah, aside from the one.
Understand that.
Yeah, and so
Knowing the precedent we have with
So you're
them.
saying right now we'd make an offer to Ute Water saying we want to donate this?
we,
Or no, we have to wait till we have somebody approve an offer?
no, I think we'd actually say, we'd like to offer this to you for free. And for this to count as, satisfaction of the right of first refusal, because if you guys say no, then we're gonna look to other agencies, or governments to donate it, but we're giving you the first shot and that satisfies our obligation.
And
Okay, so then back to the question about being public. If we offered it to Mesa County after that. They would have to keep it public? If
It would not have to keep it
Okay,
open.
That's my question. Okay.
No, I mean, well, Forest Service, that's a little harder to, yeah. I mean, any one of those agencies could close public access for whatever, for whatever reason. I mean, we can certainly state that as our desire that, I guess that's really up to you guys.
Because like the other entities that we'd be offering it to, those like the Forest Service, like that, those are public lands by how they operate.
That doesn't mean there's public access. You
Right.
don't have to allow public access. Ken had a question.
I would expect they would though.
Probably, but
The 125 acres is the thought of including those with them as a group is sort of make it a little more appealing.
well, I think,
'Cause that's probably some value that we would get if we sold it, right?
I don't know, because I have no idea what the zoning is up there, what somebody could actually do. There are no water rights associated with it, so it's gonna be just dry land. So that is not a question for me. I would maybe look to your realtor.
Well, I think, well, with Mesa County, I think they have to have what, 35 acres to be able to drill a well.
Well, that's a
Or is
state,
that state of Colorado?
Well,
it's a state law, so
So
that
125 acres, you would be
most
able
places in
to,
Colorado.
right,
you could legally drill a well. I have no idea what kind of water you.
right, you get.
I'm just gonna ask this. Why are we looking at donating first and not selling it first?
To keep it public.
Are you speaking
Why-
of the
with
125 or
why-
1 through 3?
We can't say you have to keep this public,
Right.
but by offering it for free, so they're not having, to put the likelihood of that offer being accepted and a entity keeping it public, in my eyes, would be higher.
What are you thinking of the 125 acre one that doesn't have water,
Yeah.
different than the other?
That's what I was thinking. Are we bundling it to make it more favorable of them maybe saying?
Right,
yes?
versus it's an asset that may have value that we could take that money and put back into amenities within Fruita.
What would you say, Lori?
What we were doing here, and I don't think it's had an appraisal, has it?
That's correct.
So I could do a market analysis and come up with a value.
It would be nice to have all the information in front of us if we're gonna make a decision that big, I think.
Out of everything, the least rushed, it's the 125. I mean, there's,
More comfortable,
Yeah,
there's,
more comfortable with the two.
There's no work, we don't put any extra resources.
yeah,
Sorry, one.
we're not expending resources. We're not holding large liability on that land.
Well, the thing is how fast do we need to really
So possibly you could make a motion on the 1 through 3. We could do more market analysis on 125. It's a future discussion.
Want to pull the
Yeah.
125 out.
The only thing I would say is if we're considering making an offer of those 3, I don't think it has to be all or nothing. I think if they would accept one of them and not all of them, I think that's an option, right? Like they're not mutually
In our
they're separate properties.
separate properties? It would be nice to sell a lot. 1 through
I'd like
3.
Yeah, okay, Mary Elizabeth has something.
Well, I think Mike's right. And I was just gonna add, it could end up being a situation where maybe the Forest Service says, yes, we want Reservoir 1, but we don't want 3. And then CPW says, well, we'll take 3 because, whatever. So you could, and nobody wants to most likely. but-
County, I heard that wanted number 3, right?
I'm not saying that.
would we, in our request for them to accept this donation, would we request that they keep the water rights open for the Glade Park water users, or would those water rights, would that go with that? Or we're just doing that as a favor to Glade Park water users, right?
Right. I mean, well, it's per an agreement, but it's an agreement the city can terminate, I believe at any time. So.
That'll be up to,
I think this reinforces why we go to Mesa County first.
Right, but I think with what Matthew's saying about going to Mesa County, why wouldn't we, with those ones that supply water to Glade Park, go to them second? Because they have the highest use for that, instead of going to CPW or BLM or any of those.
I think I think you guys had, that was my
I
understanding.
think we've all agreed on Mesa County being the priority.
Right, but I'm saying,
Two, and it's like.
right, but if Mesa County was first, and then you go to Gupwa for theirs second, for the water ones. Does that make?
You weren't gonna.
Strategically, does it make sense to go to
Couple
Gupwa
first.
first and then Mesa County second?
I don't think Gupwa has any means to maintain those dams.
But we haven't offered it to them, so we don't know. I mean, that's, I guess, making assumptions, or is that not?
Well, when we've negotiated those agreements and they took on pipeline, they couldn't take on the dams. I know that, so.
They wouldn't have to keep it open to the public either.
Right.
Would not like, I mean, they likely would not.
All right, so let's circle this back again. So is the majority of us comfortable with the 125 acres, getting a market analysis done and getting more information on that? And
with these, I'd like motions and votes, please.
okay, all right, so then let's do this. So the motion would be and again,
I make a motion to have staff work with the city realtor to do a market analysis of the 125.54 acres.
or 5 acres.
125.54.
Mine says 0.45.
Okay, and.
Yeah, the parcel number.
Previously known as Reservoir 4.
There you
All right, is that a good enough motion?
Second.
All right, we got a first and a second. Any other discussion on this one?
Nope.
All right, hearing none. Deb, would you please poll council?
Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
Counselor Bremen,
Yes.
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
Counselor Williams, Counselor Cry.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, now let's move into the next one is everybody comfortable with the suggestion from Mike on Reservoir 1, 2, and 3 approaching Mesa County first, and then approaching,
First.
oh, sorry, Ute Water, first right of refusal first, then Mesa County, and then it doesn't matter. I don't know if it matters which entity after that. Is it CPW or National Forest Service first?
Forest Service first, because they're
the surrounding property owners.
I support it as a group, 1, 2, and 3 together.
I'd rather offer it to the Forest Service after you. I'm just commenting. I'm just saying that would be a trend, but. You don't.
Why? But why is that?
Unanimous.
No, but
That's the surrounding property. I just feel more comfortable. I just feel more comfortable with that. And that's all. I just feel more comfortable in that order, but.
okay. Anybody else have a preference?
I'm along the same line of thinking as Matthew, that trying to keep it more locally focused, and especially because it does affect Mesa County residents. I think they would be a very logical first entity to approach. And then, if they didn't accept it, they could, help back us up with US Forest Service and CPW.
I do like that part of it too as well. If they don't want it, that they would jump on board and helping us to sign off on helping to get rid of it.
Ken?
He takes this
Aaron?
I'm happy with water than Mesa County, but as a group, or to them look at 1, 2, and 3 together, not.
You lump them together.
I want to lump them together as a sale, not pick and choose.
Well, as a donation.
It's all or nothing.
And if I could just add to that, when I mentioned that earlier, kind of thinking through it and Mary Elizabeth and I talking, it is cleaner to just offer it as a group. If anybody is only interested in one, that's a counter. I know it sounds funny of a counter we're offering for essentially free, but let them do that. But we offer them all together.
Well, I think we've got the majority to say Ute, Mesa County.
That's for
We have to go for.
I move.
Definitely think too, looking at Mesa County as a partner in it, if they're not gonna take it on, then we try.
That can't be part of the resolution.
No.
That won't be part of the resolution.
Okay, well, I just
Just
wanted
be a
to
comment.
The
clarify
motion,
that.
the
As
motion.
for giving staff
Right.
direction, I would like that clarified.
But we're also talking about, Mike was talking about writing a resolution on what our goals are for the mountain property. So
Yes.
we haven't done a motion for that yet
Okay.
either.
We need a
Let's
motion
finish
for
this
the,
one first.
Yep, so let's finish this one. I just want to make sure we're not forgetting something. So,
Okay.
somebody
All
else
right.
can do this one.
all
You're
right.
so good at it
Ken's
though.
up.
Ken's gonna do it.
Ken's up.
I make a motion that we offer reservoirs 1, 2, and 3 as a group to first Ute Water for their right of first refusal, Mesa County as a donation. Then Mesa County, if they turn down, the Mesa County, following them, US Forest Service, following that, Colorado Parks and Wildlife.
I'll second that.
All right, we've got a first and a second. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. Deb, would you please poll council?
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
Counselor Bremen,
Yes.
Counselor Purser, Counselor Williams, Counselor Cry,
Aye.
Counselor Miller.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, now let's move into the resolution. So, Mike, you have kind of your bullet points on what you think?
Yeah, we would take our points from the website, from the talking points that we put out to the public, and we'll just narrow that down into whereases. And we could put that resolution as a draft on the workshop. We have 2 items next week. I don't think this would take long, but it at least gives you an opportunity to read through it, to give suggestions, maybe tweaks, changes, and then you could give direction at the workshop of, put this on the October, whichever meeting in October to officially approve. So, I just like direction if that's what you like us to do.
All right,
Yes.
so somebody make a motion that we're gonna write a resolution on.
Do you need a?
You need a motion for that, or is it
Just
just?
direct.
That we're fine.
All right.
We'll put that on add that.
Promotion happy.
I support that direction.
All right, so you got clear direction, right, Mike?
I do. And can I just make a couple comments real quick, just to be clear, more for the record? I know we had a couple of people speak at the beginning. I just wanted to be clear that the email that I sent to Friends of Enoch Lake, I went over with all of you at a previous city council meeting that we would send that. Did not have anybody on the council tell me not to send it. And it was, and I've really appreciated working with the communication with Friends of Enoch Lake has been great. It was not we never want to hear from you, and I don't think they took it that way. I hope not. It was, but council wanted me and our legal wanted me to clarify that we couldn't start doing volunteer work there without an agreement yet. And before we could even consider talking about an agreement, we first had to figure out what our process was going to be for that you had directed to have for this meeting. And that's what was in that email. And so I just wanted to make sure that was on the record.
Can't take public.
Nope. All right, with that, then we're gonna move into council reports and actions. Who wants to start tonight? Me? You made eye contact. Go ahead.
Well, and since I missed the last meeting, so all good things, really. The Chamber's new sign, I hope you guys saw that today. It got installed. It's absolutely amazing. My friend Tim did.
Really, really cool.
It is super cool. And if you look closely at some of the leaves, there are some fun little customized, some of
Those were all hand painted.
yeah.
Yep.
It turned out just, man, super cool. So I was really happy to be able to be there for that installation this morning. And then today was the healthcare symposium I attended that. It was a really cool kind of collaborative, conversation started. There's going to be a big piece in the Daily Sentinel about the priorities that were set. We kind of got to have input on like, what are our priorities for community's healthcare moving forward, and kind of trying to dig deeper into trying to get to things sooner. So really a focus on, instead of reacting to issues, and focusing more on preventative and how we can support our community and our families. Super cool. Lots of really neat sessions. I would really like to see if we could invite the Mind Springs director, the new director at Mind Springs. I was really impressed with what I was hearing from him.
It was just here.
Oh, was I
You
missed
missed
it.
That's so funny. I was like.
Okay, well, that's okay. That's good. So you guys heard. Okay.
He was literally here when you were gone.
It's super great.
He's good.
Okay.
Because you weren't here. Yeah.
No, okay. I actually remember that now that, yeah. And then has the narrow bridge sign been removed from Pine Street?
I'm not sure if they've gotten them down just yet, but
It's on the list, right?
I mean, it's open.
it's
I feel like there should
so.
be a souvenir of some
So
sort.
if I could just clarify, so the contractor's still working.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things they're taking down. It's not probably top of list of finishing up some of the, I know it doesn't apply, but it doesn't hurt anything either. So
No, it doesn't. I just wanted it on I just wanted it on record
is.
that we are removing the narrow
yeah,
bridge sign.
they are coming down. It's just part of the construction. And so
But it is
not
part
done.
with the merry-go-round
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
part of that. Yeah.
All right, focus, let's focus.
Okay.
back, Amy,
That's all I have then.
that's all you got. All right, Aaron, we're gonna move your direction.
The only thing that I'd like to see, I really appreciated the GJEP conversation tonight, and I think it would be valuable that subsequent to completing our budget in early December, I think we should instruct staff to, I'd like to see us instruct staff to talk about incentives,
Business incentives,
local business incentives. I'd like to get that on a workshop in December or later, or shortly later. I think that would be very valuable for our community if we can.
Well, I think that would be something like looking at budget, because we do have money set aside for that 3% hotel tax, that business development.
yeah, we've been trying to build it up
Right.
so that we
having some
can
of that
participate in those.
So-
It's been discussed numerous times in the past, so it'd be good to talk about it with you all.
All right, Aaron.
That's all I have.
Matthew.
So chamber, the new sign. No, it's all right. And then there's some sort of festival coming up. I'm not sure about that. You may see something going on.
Can I jump in on that quickly?
Sure.
Every year they have a mayor's carriage ride. Every year I ask council, who on council wants to ride in this? Because it's usually just myself. In the last couple of years, it's been me and Tammy. So I'd like to get more counselors on that.
I don't know if you're mayor, or
It might have been Lori. I know you like her.
You had to
more.
drive the car for me
So,
one year, remember?
And the only person that can't make it is Matthew because he's judging. So the parade.
I won't be there at all. I'm in a wedding that day.
I mean,
Come on, somebody's gonna commit. James.
Jim.
You're on music. I know you're.
Yeah, I really love watching that.
All right, that's all. I just thought I'd throw it out. Go ahead, Matthew. That's
All
right.
right. Well,
Since you're talking about Fall Fest.
Do I get an invite?
Yes.
Or an ability to comment on an invite? I think it'd be great if let me look at my calendar, but I can, knowing that that's part of, or an option.
You bring
Yes, I'd
Lori,
like.
too. You don't have
Well, I
to-
don't know that I could grab her on, to do it.
Or your kids.
She'll stand next to Jean. Yeah, okay.
Oh, she might want to watch too, though.
we'll see.
That would be super cute.
So, I'll let you know.
And to bring this down a notch, we will have poop circles, which is something I've been working on for a long time. So
Yes, you did bring that down. Poop circle?
poop circles,
Of course, if the.
right? So kids take chalk, draw a circle, put their name on it in the parade route. And if a horse poops in it, they win a prize.
That's awesome.
Can I,
You
ask,
did
are you
not
done
know
with
we
the
were
Fall
a small
Festival?
town. You
Rustlers Roundup right there.
I have something to add for Fall Fest. Kayla and I were talking this morning, and they really need volunteers for the parade portion of Fall Fest. They only had one. asked if we could maybe like put out a call to like our boards and commissions and see if maybe somebody, anybody from that group might be willing to.
Oh, yeah, Youth Action Council would be good for them.
Or any.
Oh, yeah, but she specifically said, she's like, that's really the time that they're just kind of desperate for help. So I did tell her I would bring it up tonight, so thank you for reminding me.
All right. So since we're still talking about chamber kind of stuff, I had a conversation with Mike about trick or treat. There seems to be some confusion between the downtown board, the chamber and all of that. The downtown advisory board is not doing it. Mike and I have talked about trying to figure out what the costs are. If the city does it, traffic control for that, or if it gets farmed out, what those costs are. The concern is that if there's no traffic control and you're gonna have kids running everywhere, it turns into potentially the liability of somebody getting hurt, turning into a Frogger or something like that is pretty high. So the chamber is coming back to the chamber. So the chamber will do it, but the chamber is looking for help on options with traffic control.
I think the downtown advisory board, the idea was to shadow the chamber.
Yeah, for this year.
Yeah.
So I think there's been some confusion on that between the different organizations.
That meeting is tomorrow. I'm sure it's going to be a subject.
Yes.
Make sure to tell them it should only be 2 hours and not 3. They're trying to stretch it to 3. That's ridiculous.
I think
That
the
first hour
earlier,
for kids is-
for the little is really important.
Okay.
Well, that's what we're saying. If she's gonna talk to them, that's.
Exactly. So they get that first, the littles get.
That's what I'm saying.
All right. And then the last, then the last thing I have is attended the World Comes to Grand Junction.
Yeah.
Which was a very, very cool event. We had representatives from Canada, the UK, Japan, Taiwan, and Mexico. I will say one of the stranger parts was the Consul General from Japan talking to the leader with the incubator who's from Sweden, having them just speak in Hebrew because they were both fluent in Hebrew. It was a very bizarre, I understood like 1 out of every 5 words. But it was a very cool event. This is the first one. They're going to try to do it again next year. So, and it was really about how businesses here can, if you want to do business overseas, things to think about, and then resources available to you to help build those connections. So it was a great event. That's all I've got. Oh, GJEP tomorrow, and I will bring up renaming GJEP.
It's a good idea for their sake.
Oh, yeah.
Just.
And I like GVEP, like it's
GVEP is really good.
it's close. Yeah, it's like not a huge.
I will bring that up.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
if we were budgeting a little more dollars, we'd probably have a bigger say.
So on that point, with the jobs that come to Fruita, if they're the mean income, that's approximately $689,000. And then if we collect 3% of that, that more than pays for their ask. So I'm not suggesting at this meeting that we make that decision, but I was just kind of running those numbers.
When we look at that budget presentation on October 13th or whatever that was.
Because I did hear that we could stair step that going into that.
I like that. All right. Is that it? 'Cause we're-
That's it, sir.
Janine.
I had a complaint come to me about the odor from the dumpsters in the alley here.
They're horrible.
And
Working out by them.
I just said that I would bring it up. So I don't know if there's anything, well, I mean, I do know that we've talked about moving the dumpsters for years and years and years. But
Yeah, so that's not her purview.
oh yeah. Right,
Isn't there just one
I'm
business
well
that doesn't
aware.
do it? Isn't that?
I'm just saying that the odor is getting out of hand. And so then I just didn't know if there was any sort of anything that we could do about it. Okay.
As more of like a code enforcement type thing.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
Is that in our books?
Like power wash the dumpsters.
It's super significant. It's really,
They'll
yeah.
pick you up.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're running around and.
And I don't have anything else.
All right, James, it's your turn.
Oh, I do have one more thing.
Nope. it's-
I know the Heart of Fruita was last Wednesday and it went really well. Lots of people came and we did the little tour and it's super, it's super cool. All of it was really good. And I just, if you haven't seen all of the artwork, the 3, go take a look. That's all. No, I really.
Okay, James.
The only thing I have to tell Shannon, yes, I will move the dates of our tourism board, and I didn't send you back that, but we got that moved. That was gonna be next week. And the only other thing, and none of us have mentioned it yet, that 3 of us were at, or 4 of us were at the groundbreaking ceremony for the church. That was really cool. It was fun. They seemed very emotional when they were talking, and I felt like that we did a really good job of supporting them and being there for that. They did a really good job of recognizing the fire department and the first responders and everything. I thought the whole ceremony was very, very thoughtful, and it was very moving. So other than that, no.
I got a question related to that, Mike. Did you talk to the Historical Preservation Board? All right, because I talked to Mike, because they gave Mike a shovel and they gave myself a shovel, and it's got a plaque on it. So what I want to do is, we'll have to take out a council budget, but it'll be anywhere from $75 to $100 to engrave the Fruita logo on it. And I want to engrave each councilor's name that was serving during that time that we did the groundbreaking. And then they donated to the Historical Preservation.
The shovel. So do that with the shovel.
Do that.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
That's great.
So.
Really cool. Thank you.
Should we?
Hopefully.
Because there was also counselors on the previous council that wrote
Really would.
support of getting.
I mean, we can.
Put both councils.
I mean, we didn't.
I think Heather was really the only, no.
Heather and
Oh, because it was, right.
against it. Just kidding.
So I'm good with whatever, if that's what you guys want to, I mean, I just thought it'd be good to have something on record with they've already got the date on the little plaque.
Cool.
City logo on. All right, I'll get it and we'll get it taken care of.
It might. Thanks, Matt.
And I did see that right after the council meeting where I mentioned the sight line around that corner, it got cut down.
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
next morning.
I was like,
that was
oh,
great.
It was so fast.
Nicely done.
All right, what, James, you're still up.
I'm good.
All right,
Mayor, can I forgot one thing. Just one.
wait, we gotta go to Ken first. And then
Oh, that's,
come back.
I just want to say it. I have one quick thing
Okay.
at some point, whenever it
Yeah.
is there.
I did have a briefing last week with the GVRTC about potential location for the future of the mobility hub. They're gonna build a big facility and yeah, I'm not sure report there. More info will come out in the future.
All right, we'll go back to Aaron.
On the same night as Heart of Fruita, the mayor and I attended the open house for community hospitals, childcare facility, Adventure Academy,
Adventure Academy.
and they were able to get 113 seats instead of the 100. And so that'll be nice. And they can, I think, add another 300 or something like that to it, or make the whole thing because
Yeah, the property.
they can expand if needed, which is awesome.
They already.
They'll be at like 306. I think today is what they said would
Okay.
be.
They already have a waiting. list.
Looking, oh yeah, they have an extensive.
But so, and they said just as information, there's over 8,000 total seats needed, half are filled. So it's a good impact to it, but it was a good little place out there.
I don't need to talk about. I did talk to Dr. Corey Klein, and now Mike's been meeting with him, and they've been talking a little bit about I know childcare, especially for their employees. So it's again, right. Yeah, you met just before that because that was part of our conversation because I just met with Mike about that. So just talking about retaining employees for Family Health West is hard because they don't have the childcare here in Fruita as well. So again, it's going to be a topic that's going to be on the books for a little while. I don't want to add anything else to our schedules, but and I didn't mention this before because I was like, I forgot about it. But when we had the boards and commissions get together, the Livability Commission gave me a list of what areas need to be cleaned up. And they want to know if the council would step up and take one of those sections. And they're all the adopt a street thing. And so it's like 0.4 miles, one's a quarter mile, a half mile. So there's several available. We could set up a date to do that. But if everybody's, if the majority of us are interested, or even if a minority of us are interested, I'll step up and do it. I think Janine's shaking her head.
I'd like to.
I'll get with Dave Parisney and let him know, hey, we'll pick one. Is there?
Yeah, yep, it's great.
And I'm sure nobody really cares which section.
Those are really short.
Want to do, should we doodle poll this?
Yeah, all right.
Oh, we can have a contest between who can pick up the most trash, staff or council. Pound for
Is the
pound,
alleyway
pound-
on that list?
Pound for pound,
Right.
right?
Joel, is the alleyway on that?
Oh, there's here.
I need biohazard suits. for that.
The most stinky wins, right? That, okay, the other quick one I wanted to ask, and it's based on public comment today. I don't know what our or how the police department moves around that radar sign. And I mean, I know they have certain things, and I know you guys have a committee that handles all that. So it reminded me of that, like moving the radar sign, but it also reminded me of the speeding down, is it Otley? No, it's, yeah.
Tabor
It's
before.
Tabor.
East Tabor.
On if there's anything that, I know that was in their conversation, so just maybe a quick update on that.
Not working.
No,
Should I bring up my other thing then? After you get done with that, I'll bring up one more thing. Yeah.
Money for microphones.
Yeah.
In the proposed budget, we do have a traffic calming measure for next year for Paber. We are patrolling it pretty heavily, like we're monitoring it heavily. I talked with Bernie today. He called to check on that. And I've noted some of those others. We do rotate the trailer, and we usually have a list of based on complaint areas or areas that so we'll just add those two and keep moving it around and doing the patrolling. But
Can we bump them up the list just because they've been mentioned recently?
we can try, but I mean, there's some that we have to get periods of time on them. So, or it doesn't mean much. And no disrespect to people speaking, but nobody really knows what the speed is when you're standing there unless you're a police officer. And it feels quite faster when a car goes. I mean, I mean, you can be driving the speed limit and people give you looks because they think you're
Louder it is, the faster.
But we do have speeding issues, and and that's not unique to every community in the country. And the police department this year alone, we've stepped up enforcement of speeding far more than we've done in the past with stops. And Paber's been the largest road that we've had stops and citations and warnings and all of those things. So we're making sure to stay on it. We can't leave a car on any street all day long. That's not possible when you only have the amount of officers we have in a shift, but they're moving around and they're responding to calls and they're doing traffic stops.
All right. So then the other quick one I'm going to have, because it's coming up to budget season. And I know Mike and I talked about it, that they just upgraded our microphone system and all that. And it was, I think you said around $2,000 or whatever. But when we constantly have issues, was it more than that? Wait.
I don't recall that number, but it was.
I don't know. All right. I don't know. But I think it's be serious to look at, since we constantly have issues with Mary Elizabeth having to talk and then Mike having to talk and having to pass microphones back and forth.
Well, it would be nice to have one for each table at least, like, so that we're not.
So I guess
We usually do have people at.
I'd like to look at budget, whatever that number is, and let us know. So that way we're not having this conversation over and over again every time there's big council meetings and we have to keep passing the microphone. So,
Battery did die on this one, so that's.
all right.
I want to say thank you for this.
So with that, is there,
Oh,
is there any last minute?
Mine is real silly, but no. I made a joke about Karen voting no against that, and I sort of feel bad. That was a lighthearted joke to Karen. She's the most compassionate counselor I've ever worked with. Oh, you did too? Oh,
She's raising her hand up there right now. All right, Amy.
Yeah, it was just a joke.
The parking lot, huge win, guys. Like I don't know if you guys have had, yes, like
Signage going up for that.
it's up.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Went
and-
up.
Job. guys.
Was
Yeah,
it
nice,
Friday?
nice work on
It was
that.
up Friday. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
We
work
moved the
on that.
narrow
That
bridge
was-
sign there.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any other?
The
Promise.
movie night was really well attended.
It was packed.
It was
And
Until the better movie shows and it's really gonna be packed.
yeah.
Wait, what is the time? The time is now 9:45 PM and we conclude our meeting.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. guys.